You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. We are back here to have another one of these fun little episodes where we're going to go outside the box and talk about other aspects of a galaxy far, far away. Since the last time that we've been on here, the WGA thankfully reached a tentative agreement and the writer's strike has come to an end. So shout out to the writers for getting the fair pay and treatment that they deserve. Hopefully SAG-AFTRA is up next. If you're wondering, hey, why aren't you talking about a certain finale for a certain show that may have been airing right now instead of talking about what you're talking about today? We are waiting still until the SAG strike concludes to talk about Ahsoka. That's just our personal preference. That's just what we feel comfortable with. Hopefully we won't have to wait much longer because I am just chomping at the bit to be able to talk about that stuff again. But, you know, the actors come first. And we will respect them. So the full trio here for the first time in this quote-unquote new season. We are here to talk about our favorite Star Wars games today after we talked about some aspects of our Star Wars collections last episode. But joining us, he's no stranger to the show. He is the host of the Nerd Academy podcast. Jarod the Dark Jedi is back once again.
Yes. I feel so seen that this was the episode I was called in to talk about a handful of games that I
give them the exact message I shot you.
Yeah. Let me open that up here real quick. It was very funny and it was very it was proof that I'm painfully on brand all the time. So you hit me with the, hey, you want to come on? I said, absolutely. You said, hell yeah. And then you said, you can give the Obi-Wan game all the praise. So the fact that it was like, hey, you want to come talk about video games? And it was immediately like, and don't worry, we know. But thankfully, the structure of this means that I don't have to start picking between my very nostalgic children. I can just I can section things off. So I'm excited. I'm very excited to have a conversation I have all the time yet again.
Yep. So basically, we're going to be talking about.
I totally agree.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that, like, just going through like my selections for this episode has literally it's like just a whole nostalgia trip down memory lane because there's been a lot of influential Star Wars games in my video gaming childhood, as it were, which I think is true for all of us.
Narrowing it down to 3 was tough. Because there are some that I wanted to choose that I was like, I just don't know if I have as much of a connection as I want to, but I have that. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going around and we're going to be talking about essentially the games that made us. So the first thing is we're going to talk about our first Star Wars game we remember playing, what introduced us to the world of Star Wars video games, some of the earliest memories we have from that, and then we're going to be going around talking about our 3 games that embody us the most as Star Wars fans. But before that, we're bringing back a segment from last week that we introduced. We like to call it the Jedi Archives.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
So, last week we introduced this. This is pretty much just our podcast Hall of Fame. We nominate something fun related to Star Wars. We do a Twitter vote, and you, the viewers, get to decide on what gets inducted each and every episode. So last week, our nominees were Galactic Battlegrounds, which was nominated by Don, Night Sister Marin, which was nominated by yours truly, and Jorah Mali from the High Republic was nominated by our guest, Savvy. And our first inductee into the archives with 64.7% of the vote is Master Jorah, is our first inductee into the archives. So congratulations there.
A worthy winner. Indeed.
Painfully rated character that didn't get much of a spotlight or time to shine because of, well, you know, what ended up happening to the character. But she was a 1-book wonder for me. Technically 2-book because of Into the Dark, but it just reminds me I need to get back to the High Republic. So
same.
Don, I know Phase 3 is starting.
Started.
I think it started today, actually.
Technically,
as
yeah,
we're
it started with the
recording.
comic.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
So I got to get back on that. I'm a phase behind right now. But Don, why don't you
Same.
kick us off again this week for your archive nomination?
Okay, so I'm going to keep the High Republic flame alive here, and I'm going to nominate Bell Zettifer as my inductee into the Hall of Fame, because, like, Bell, for me, he's really underrated as a character. Like, he's been kind of one of my favorites, because his journey is really powerful, going through the novels, like, the difficulties he has to contend with as a Jedi Padawan, and just... he's just a really likable character in the way that he perseveres in the face of seemingly overwhelm and loss. And also I've got to mention his adorable bond with Ember, the Charhound. She is just the best. And their relationship is it's one of the most heartwarming things about the books. And there's a lot of heartwarming stuff in those books. So yeah, Bell Zettifer is my nominee.
I love Bell as a character. I'm still not fully done with the Fallen Stars, so I feel like his story, at least that we've seen so far, isn't fully complete in my mind. But I love that character because he seemed like he wouldn't be when you first started reading Light of the Jedi. Like, he didn't seem like he'd be like perhaps the central character of Phase 3, but he's kind of shaping up to be right now. Like, he's just a really interesting, really intriguing character. I love the dynamic he had with, losing his master, and then he thinks he has his master back, and then he loses him again. And it's so painful to go through his story, and the last 10 pages or so of Rising Storm alone are enough to put him near the top of my High Republic rankings. But I think it's a great shout there. Conor, our resident Philadelphia Phillies stan account, do you have something for Kiev
Trennis.
Do
Who
we
else?
even need to have an explanation here?
Like,
Applause.
she's my favorite Star Wars character, man. Like,
She's awesome.
yeah.
Mhm. So, for myself, when I said that we can nominate literally anything in Star Wars, I meant it. And I was debating, should I start shit posting? I'm going to give it respect. But in the theme of video games this week, I was like,
No,
should I go
shit
High
post.
Republic?
Shit post.
Should I go High Republic or should I not? I instead decided to go with, we're going to bring out this game right here. We're going with the pod race level from Lego Star Wars, the video game. Just because
The specificity
that
is
level
sensational.
gave me so much hell when I was a kid. I
That
have
gave me
no
PTSD.
idea why. But I remember playing not just the single player, but the multiplayer. I couldn't get past one of the humps, and then the Tusken Raiders start shooting at you, and you're like, "What is this?" And it's just nowadays, if I throw Complete Saga on, I can beat the level in maybe 2-3 minutes. But back in the day, back in 2005, that level gave Andrew just amazing struggles to get through. And
See, that's funny because as a kid, I played that on free play as just like a credit as a stud farm.
oh no,
Because you
that's
can
the
get
best
so
part of that.
many studs
That's
so
the best
easily.
part of that level is you get so many studs, and they changed it in Complete Saga, but in the original, you could get all the mini kits very easily in just your first go playing story mode, which there's very few levels in that game you can do
I missed
that.
a trick there.
Yeah. I will be talking about that game later on, no spoilers. But again, I got to bring it up. And I just remember the satisfaction of finally beating it, and now I can do it. But it's just such a fun level to play. We're not going to talk about the gunship level from Attack of the Clones, though, because that level
No.
back then, and that
No.
level sucks ass now.
That still gives me PTSD.
I hate it. I struggle with it today.
Hysterically poor level design.
Oh my god.
Those are one of those like, oh, I was bad at this because I was a kid, and then I played it again and did it all. I'm like, no, this is just bad, actually.
All right, so that's
my entry
mine.
was the Jedi Temple one, because that level I first played it on my laptop and I could never get to that level. I had to wait to get the game again on GameCube because every time I tried to load it, my laptop would crash and I was just basically stuck in the episode 3 section for ages.
That level,
so I gained a kind of special resentment for that.
Not only is that level long, but it's like
Goes on.
it's hard too. It goes on forever. but it's got like
It really does.
it's got the scrapped like fake Jedi clones from Revenge of the Sith in it, because you could tell they probably like were like, all right, well, here's some development plans, because they didn't want to spoil Revenge of the Sith, even though that game
it's not only
like,
in that, but it's also in the Revenge of the Sith like video
it's
game.
in the game,
too.
Isn't it? Yeah, because those
Wait.
I think the game.
It's not. It's not in the
it's
game.
not.
It's in the
Yeah,
novel.
no.
It's in the
Oh, is it
novel.
not?
It's just clone troop. Yeah, it's just clone troopers.
But like I remember the Lego
mixing
Star
my
Wars,
stuff
the prequel one came out, I think a month or a month and a half before Revenge of the Sith even came out. So like they were like,
it's where the
you
levels
can
are
know
so
what happens,
sparse.
kind of, sort of, but it's like real vague in a way. But so again, pod race level. I have a Lego Anakin's pod racer right there.
Now I want to play complete Saga again.
I'm thinking about it, man. I might.
Just remembering like Lego Anakin and Padme arguing. then she just goes.
I just remember Obi-Wan, like when they got the ship, he just smashes it, and like it's just there's so much about that game I love, and again I'll be talking about it later.
The grin from Obi-Wan when he sees Django is Lego Django in Attack of the Clones is brilliant.
All right, so Jarod, your nomination. What have you brought to the table?
What I have brought to the table, also keeping it in the theme of Star Wars games, I'm going to talk about what is not technically a Star Wars game, but involves Star Wars characters, 3 to be exact. I am talking about the guest appearances of Yoda, Darth Vader, and Starkiller in Soul Calibur 4.
I was going to say, is this fucker bringing up Soul Calibur?
You're goddamn right, this motherfucker bringing up Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur, baby. This is awesome.
I only ever rented Soul Calibur 4 from my local Family Video as a youngling, because I wanted just to play as Yoda, Vader, and Starkiller. And it is funny to me because that was my gateway into fighting games. B, I will revisit Soul Calibur 4 just because the character creation, that was the first game they had that in there. It kind of peaked in 4 because there were like slight RPG elements to the character creation that carried over into actual play. But I'll revisit that game for the story, for the aesthetic, for the character creation, and I will go, oh yeah, Yoda's in this. It kind of sneaks up on me.
Or did they have like covers where Yoda and Vader were on it, or am I making that up?
So
yeah, because I know
Yoda
was
console. So yeah, the Star Wars
console exclusives
was dictated by the console. So if you got the 360 version, it was Yoda and Galen, and if you got the PlayStation version, it was Vader and Galen. But the other one was DLC. So if you were on PlayStation, you could buy Yoda. If you had Xbox, you could buy Vader.
Was Starkiller DLC, or was it in the base game?
Base game from the jump.
Yeah, he was like an
story
unlockable
mode. Yeah, you had to beat arcade as Yoda. You had to beat the arcade as Yoda, and that's how you unlock Galen Merrick. And the end of Galen's story mode, like his ending cutscene, is like a minute and a half, 2 minutes longer on the PlayStation, or if you have Vader, because it then goes over to like him having a scene with Darth Vader. But no, it was the game that got me in the fighting games. Absolutely loved it. It was very funny because Soul Calibur is known primarily for 2 things: guest characters and, in a word, boobs. And I didn't know that as a kid. That wasn't on my radar. So I'm not gonna. If you're not in a public space, go ahead and Google Ivy Soul Calibur 4. I did not know this character was in the game, and I did not know that she looked like that. So I had very, you know, the memes of like, me when I'm playing video games by myself, me when like a parent walks in, and it's just the most raunchy, suggestive thing. Yeah, I was playing the video game that like had Yoda and Darth Vader in it. And then I was like, oh, I need to beat this right now. Oh my God. Need to get through this stage right now.
I just looked up something crazy, and Soul Calibur 4 came out before The Force
Yep.
Unleashed.
Before the
Yeah.
Force Unleashed.
It was like a hype for Star Killer.
It was aggressive
Mhm.
marketing.
Did. Wow.
Yeah.
I thought for the longest time it came
Just
out
by a
after.
little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, because I was
So,
I
yeah,
remember
no.
him
it beforehand
teasing
'cause I was
Starkiller
so
a
hyped
bit
for Force
before he did.
Unleashed.
And that's great. You would never see that today,
No.
which is great. And
No.
just in terms of like the era where Star Wars characters could like show up in other games, the closest thing I can think of, and this might be a future nom in the future, wasn't Darth Maul in one of the Tony Hawk Underground games?
And Django. And
Yeah.
Django.
Django Fett, yeah. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. I played that on the GameCube. And
What?
I remember just being so excited. You could get
Django,
Django
Darth
Fett.
Maul, Spider-Man, like
It's
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast like a couple months ago, and like, yeah, Darth Maul and Tony Hawk Underground. I'm like, wait, what? And I looked it up, and it's real.
yeah.
I have so many
2000s
fond
were
memories
a
of like
different
skating
time.
around Alcatraz with Django Fett doing ollies and stuff. It's awesome.
Well, I didn't.
yeah.
I mean, bringing it back to the Lego games, I didn't know until recently because the complete saga, obviously, Indiana Jones is a hidden character in it. Where if you watch the indie
Yeah, I
trailer,
forgot about
the
that.
Lego indie trailer, you get Indiana Jones. I didn't realize until like 2 months ago after Indy 5 came out and I was doing a replay of the 360 Lego Indiana Jones that Han Solo, they've returned the favor and he's in that game. I guess I never
Oh,
got
neat.
that far.
Wait, did you think it's just Han?
Ooh, I don't know. Is
Can
there
unlock a
other
bunch.
is there
Luke and
others?
Luke, Leia, and I think Chewie.
I did not
Oh,
know that.
neat.
The
Wow.
level
Chewie
where
and
you're like
Indiana
going
Jones
through
have fun
Nepal,
adventures.
the level where you're going through Nepal, you can, if you get a bazooka trooper, blast a hole in like an ice cave, and like Luke is like hanging upside down, and then I don't remember if you find all the Star Wars characters you unlock Han, or if you unlock all the Star Wars characters. But
See,
Yeah.
they had it easy with Complete Saga. You just watch the fucking trailer and you get in.
it's actually do things in Indiana to
Mhm.
get Star Wars
So
characters.
it's kind of a
God damn,
hard
now I
game.
want to play Complete
honestly.
Saga.
I
Damn.
think that might be the theme of this episode is we want to play these games. So that is our second edition of our Jedi Archives. We will be putting up a poll pretty much as soon as this episode drops on our Twitter at For the Repub Pod, where you can vote on this week's nominees. Once again, they are Don nominating Bell Zedifer, Conor nominating Keeve Trennis, myself nominating the pod race level from Lego Star Wars, the video game, and Jarod nominating Vader, Yoda, and Starkiller in Soul Calibur 4. So pretty stacked group of nominations. I'll be very interested to see what wins here. I don't think there's a clear winner, or I mean, I would be happy with any of them winning, and I'm not just saying that because I like my nomination. But here we go. So now to get on to the main portion of this episode, which again we are calling it the games that made us, and we're going to be going through all of our Star Wars game stories and talk about our first introduction to Star Wars gaming, what that was, if we have any memories of it, and then talk about the 3 games that made us. So, Jarod, since you're the guest, how about you start us off?
You want to get it out of the way? You want to
Get it out of the way. So, your introduction to Star Wars games is as follows.
I am told how I was introduced to Star Wars by my parents. I don't remember it. I was so young. But my introduction to Star Wars movies, which the original trilogy, Revenge of the Sith wasn't out yet. I was young enough to see Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones in the theater. However, my first real Star Wars memories are not of any of the movies, but are in fact of a Star Wars game that was exclusive to the original Xbox called Star Wars Obi-Wan. It came out. It came out in the early 2000s, so it's not quite a Phantom Menace tie-in game, despite it largely taking place over the course of Phantom Menace. It basically picks up like a couple months before Phantom Menace and then runs through the movie. Like at about the quarter of the way, 1/3 mark of the game, you are on the droid control ship. And It was deeply formative for me. It is, I think it's why, I know it's why I love the Phantom Menace so much, because so much of that game's visual aesthetic and visual language was rooted in Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, it's like Padawan, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon for the most part, so there's that. Everybody knows I'm like a Jedi Council Glupshido scholar, and that's also because of this game, because there was a 2-player versus mode, and throughout the game there were bonus levels where you go back to the Jedi Temple and spar with council members. Now, if this game came out today, you'd have people who were fucking hemorrhaging because Padawan Obi-Wan's holding his own against Mace fucking Windu. But that's aside,
not in the canon.
yeah, no, and I we can get into the who would win in a fight.
Well, how do you
at
think
some
they
point.
felt when Connor had Shmi beat the hell out of Palpatine?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
So
Can't even
You don't
use the
make any-
Force.
You don't even make any sense.
Smee can't even fight a Sith Lord. That doesn't make any sense.
so
She could if she wanted to.
yeah, no. So you had these like really fun like little bonus missions where you'd like train with a bunch of different Jedi Council members, and then once you beat them in the Jedi arena, you could then play as them in the multiplayer mode. So that was a lot of fun. And again, it was why I was like, oh, fucking Coyote Mundi. It's like I'm 6 and I fucking love Coyote Mundi and Plo Koon and shit. So yeah, no, it was really interesting. It's a big swing and a miss in many ways. It was very bold in its game design because most Star Wars games, across the pantheon of Star Wars gaming, there was basically one of two ways you use the lightsaber. You pulled the right trigger or you hit like X or square or whatever. Obi-Wan was interesting because you controlled your lightsaber with your right joystick.
Oh.
And like swung it. So the first things first, you've now run out of a way to control the camera. So spoiler alert, you're gonna fucking die because you can't see shit. You will be getting swarmed by enemies and you can't see almost anything behind you because you have to like use the movement stick to completely turn around. It's like Michael Keaton Batman can't move his neck. That's basically the situation you're in, but with a lightsaber. But it was very
3D vibes to me.
It's
for sure.
But it was a very clever idea. It was a very clever idea. I think today, if that game were made and somebody wanted to implement that control, like I think that games have gotten really good at just like auto cameras that I think you might be able to pull it off in some way. But yeah, so it had this like really interesting. I don't want to say intuitive because it wasn't. It worked poorly because again, you can't move the camera, but it was really interesting, and it meant for really very, very fascinating, one of a kind combat. We've not had a Star Wars game since that was as like, no, we want to give you control of your lightsaber. And even though like it didn't work in the end, I do think it was a very brave decision, and one that obviously it hasn't been replicated because of the obvious issue with it. But like it's one of a kind in that way. One of the other things that I love so dearly about this game is that the voice actor for Obi-Wan is horrendous. So you have your classic, Obi-Wan Kenobi, hello there, like everybody has this idea of what Ewan McGregor sounds like. This fucking guy, with Obi-Wan, there's a little bit of England, a little bit of Scotland, a little bit of Ireland. This guy, I don't know where he was from, but it was not one of those three places. And it was made worse by the fact that there was a button input to make him talk. So like you could walk up to like random civilians and just like press the Y button and be like, hello. And then if you kept talking, he'd just go, I'm not sure. Like, no shade to friend of the show, Eli of Epic Confrontations and Star Wars in a Galaxy. It kind of sounded like when Eli tries to do a British accent. but this guy just fucking sounds like that. Like, it was bizarre. The best would be harkening back to the first bit I ever started on this show. Anakin Skywalker's a little bit space racist. If you kept trying to talk to civilians, he would go through like, hello, I'm not sure. And it's just like that. You just keep hitting Y. He just keeps repeating it over again. And eventually he'll hit it's like so problematic. He goes, that's how he sounds. Do you understand my language? And when you go back and play it, and it's just some like 5'0" fucking punk Jedi Padawan walking up to some random fucking Wookiee on Coruscant, being like, "Hey, speak basic." Like it's like it's just like,
Wow.
it's like
He's just like got
yes, it is.
possessed by the space racist from the Old Republic.
Yeah, truly. It's do you understand my language? It's so fucking funny. But yeah, no, and like a lot of early 2000s games, despite the character you were playing as or the franchise you were in, you could kill civilians. And it was like it catches you off guard because again, you're using a lightsaber in confined spaces. And you can only control it with your joystick, and there's no real way to aim. So sometimes there'd be some poor fucker behind you who'd catch that backswing, and they'd let out they would just let out this horrific death curdle, that you just like again on the backswing hit some civilian who's like this close to you, and you just go well, they just flop to the fucking ground. It was fantastic. The best level in the game, without a doubt, is because it runs up to the end of Phantom Menace. So you get to fight Darth Maul at the end. The best part about the Darth Maul fight, the Darth Maul fight is the best level in the game. Because it's like the best lightsaber duel. Like the Jedi Council training things are fun, but like Maul, because you're in the reactor pit. It's fucking great. No, it's funny because when the level boots up, you're like behind the laser gate and you're watching the Maul and Qui-Gon NPCs duke it out. And like you kind of just sit there for like a minute and watch the fight. Which like but the ambiance, the tone, it's perfect. Like I would not change that. But eventually Maul scores that killing blow. Qui-Gon, like every other human in the game, just does this hilarious fucking flop onto their back when they die. And when Obi-Wan, you could see Phantom Menace, no! For whatever reason, they slightly changed the line in the game.
Oh no.
So it's just Obi-Wan. So Obi-Wan yells, "Master, no." But it's this goofy fucking voice actor. So it's Master, no! But like he also sounds bored. He just sounds like it's like okay. Come on. Can one of you stick the pointy end in somebody? Okay. No. All right. Let's get it over with.
See,
Master, no. Don't give him your social security number.
Yeah. So the other thing that I love about the Darth Maul fight, I'm gonna keep talking about this game. Sorry, this is your fucking mistake. They
no one else is going to. So
they anime the shit out of the way you beat Darth Maul. So the boss fight itself is cool because Darth Maul gets 2 health bars. So you fight him. So he's got his first like green health bar, and you fight him trying to fight him, and then like you finish off that green health bar, and then it goes away, and that's whenever you fight him with one blade. So that first health bar, boom, you cut his lightsaber in half. Now, if you're good at the game, which it's hard to be because the game is not made well, if you time it right and you pay attention, what you can do is Darth Maul is like in this like stunned like state while his new health bar is coming, and you can use a power called Force Focus, which puts it into slow-mo. So if you're Johnny on the spot with it and you put it into slow-mo, you can just kind of fucking wail on Maul for a little bit while his other health bar is coming up and like take like a quarter of it out. before it fills back up. If you're quick and if you're smart, it's hard to be those things in this game. Only because I've played it for 20 years have I ever figured that out. But so you do that, you get to the second health bar, and then when you beat him, before that, talking about how anime it is. So, Master, no! Darth Maul walks up to the reactor shield and he just starts doing a fucking anime villain monologue. That, if I had my druthers, would be in the goddamn movie. Because he just walks up to the thing, and he like hits his pose, and he was like, "I'm somewhat disappointed in your master. I hope you'll be more of a challenge than him." And it's just like, God, this dialogue's terrible, but I fucking love it. It's like a McRib, of a game. Like it's a novelty and it's fun in the moment, but my God, is there nothing here? It may actually be bad for you in the long run, but it's my favorite Star Wars thing of all time. So, so he's like, somewhat disappointed in your master, and then you fight him, and then when you score that final blow on him, he drops his lightsaber, and he's like, and they do a vertigo zoom. Now, I don't know if anybody here knows what I'm talking about. So the vertigo zoom is this very, very famous shot. It's done obviously in the movie Vertigo, but it's very famously done in Jaws, where you're using the zoom function on the camera at the same time that you're pulling it away on a dolly. So you get this interesting thing where like the camera's physically moving backwards but zooming in at the same time. So Darth Maul gets hit with the blade, and he goes, ugh, and they vertigo zoom on Maul. And he's like, ugh. I think he says "you win" or some bullshit like that. And he's just standing in front of the reactor pit holding his gut. And then Obi-Wan hits him with a force push, at which point he anime style, like as he goes backwards, comes apart. Like he just bop. Like that's when he peels apart. And then he just and then his limp body falls down the reactor pit. It's incredible. The end of the game is one of the funniest Easter eggs in all of Star Wars. Andrew, if you want to try to pull it up for the screen share, because I can't explain it. If you go to like Star Wars Obi-Wan Xbox credits, I think there's like the end of somebody's playthrough. You can just skip through the Darth Maul fight and go to the end of the credits. Because I can explain this all day long, it will not be as funny, but I need to tee it up. If you get to the end of the credits, and you can only do this when you play through the game, like if you beat the game and then you go back to play the Darth Maul fight, you don't get the end cutscene, nor do you get the credits. So you get to the end of the credits, screen goes black, and you get the hilarious Obi-Wan voice actor, and he's doing a Star Wars-ified version of the train spotting monologue. That is, yeah.
A whole ass monologue from that guy.
The whole train spotting. The whole, but like instead, it's like choose the Force, choose the lightsaber. Like and I want you to pull it up so people can hear the voice, because I'm bringing that voice to life, and like nobody ever believes me with how goofy this fucking voice is. But yeah, it's just
hold on.
That is
here we go.
Is excellence.
Choose a job. Choose the dark side. Choose the council. Choose a flubbing big lightsaber. Choose protocol droids, holoprojectors, and R2 units. Choose Watto, Tatooine, and Alderaan. Choose fixed interest credit payments to Sebulba. Choose a Corellian freighter that did the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
This sounds like
Choose sitting in Jabba's throne room, watching mind-numbing dancers.
All right, I'll stop it there.
Oh,
dude, it sounds like
What did I just hear?
Trying to like oh my God, okay. How do I describe it? It sounds like Obi-Wan like as a surfer bro almost.
Yeah.
Like
You see what I mean? It
like
sounds like Eli's
dude.
British accent.
Just,
Like no shade. I love the kid.
That voice is awful.
It's like it's surfer
Choose
bro
Just
cracked
payments
out
to
of his
Sebulba.
mind. It's train spotting Obi-Wan.
I'm picturing
worst
Padawan
voice.
Obi-Wan with like frosted tips,
Dreads.
I was gonna say,
Ken
like,
sunglasses.
Like, yo,
Fucking dreads.
I mean, you mean like the
doing the
concept art?
Bo-Katan pose
Yeah.
on Jabba's throne, like choose the Force.
Choose the pause.
God
Yassified
damn.
Obi-Wan.
That's awful. Again, I was like
I'm
I've heard
Obi-Wan,
nothing
but
but
yassified.
awful things about this game except for you. And I was like, I gotta play that because you make it sound interesting. And then I listened to that and I'm like, maybe I don't want to play
The game, like I said, the gameplay is fun. It's hard. It's a very hard game to be good at. I thought it was because I was a child. It's because it's poorly designed.
Poorly designed.
But like there's no other Star Wars game like it. There's no other Star Wars game like it. There is no other Star Wars game that like the one-on-one combat, like in situations where you're not dealing with like blaster users or like so like the first like act of the game, which is basically like the pre-Phantom Menace stuff. It's like Jedi doing crime shit, which I love. I love Jedi gumshoe bullshit. So like the first level is Obi-Wan's at this like train station and all hell breaks loose, and it's this criminal syndicate known as the Black Heth, which like if that name ever gets used in canon, I'm gonna bug the fuck out. Because to my knowledge, the Black Heth is only a gang that is featured in Obi-Wan. So it's like the Black Heth are raising hell in this train station. So you got to like basically liberate this like huge, it's called Icor Station or whatever. So to liberate the station, and then the boss battle is this Trandoshan with a fucking lightsaber-proof club. And you piece up the Trandoshan, and then you save the station. And then it's like, oh, well, like the black, like we have like an informant who's like being held hostage at this like construction facility is the next level. So you got to like fight your way through. And it's not really a stealth mission because there is no stealth in this game. My God, if there was. So you go through the level. So like every level of the building that you're fighting through has these like terminals that like they'll sound the alarm, and like and if they sound the alarm, you lose because they shoot the informant. And like, and it's just this is fun cast of characters that make up the NPCs. Where all of there's this one Regi's guy who like has a wooden club, and he will charge you, and he'll be like, "I'll smash your skull." He'll say it loud as shit like that. And it's so funny. And again, this is where like the ludonarrative dissonance of a Star Wars game comes into play. Because he'll attack you with his wooden club, and then you block it, and then you go to hit him, and he'll try to block you, and you slice the club in half. He doesn't stop those, so you. And he, like most of the other like organic beings you fight in the game, let out this horrifying death knell, where you cut him down. He's just like, and he's like gripping his chest before he flops to the ground. Like, I think this is the beginning of me, like in my mind when I play a Star Wars game, going, that could have been a non-lethal wound. He's incapacitated. We see people survive with lightsaber wounds all the time. Just a little and they fall down because they're in
fine.
shock.
It's fine.
He's
Everything is fine.
There's no dismemberment, thank God, because that would have broken my fucking brain as a kid. Because when I was a kid, it was just so funny to be like, "Hey, hello, civilian," just because you could. Who's gonna stop me? I'm the Jedi.
I'm the Jedi, and I have the lightsaber.
Yeah, choose.
Oh no, your head has been separated from your shoulders.
Yeah, what a shame this game.
Choose the Force.
What a shame that this game came out, I believe, before the term death stick was a thing, because that totally would have been a part of the train spotting monologue at the end. So it's like, okay,
choose death sticks.
Choose death sticks. So you're fighting through like the Black Heth, and then like around the third level, it's like, oh, the Black Heth are getting in this weird weapons shipment at this Coruscant shipyard. So you got to go and stop it from happening. Then the second enemy faction of the game enters the picture, and it is the Jin Ha. Again, I have never heard of the Jin Ha in any other Star Wars but this. This is prime shit Disney. So then the Jin Ha enter the picture, and they're this like weird shadowy weapons smugglers, like this like weapons ring, but like all their shit's made out of cortosis. This was the first time I ever heard of cortosis as a Star Wars concept, because then you fight this army of like weapons of like gun runners basically who are like trafficking in like cortosis axes and swords and warhammers and armor and like
God damn.
dude. So you fight them here, and then like the next level is you have to infiltrate this Jinha base because the Jedi Council sent Ethkoth and Plo Koon to infiltrate it, and then they got captured. And then you and Qui-Gon have to go rescue them. And then Qui-Gon's like, wait here, I'll go into the base. And then Qui-Gon's like, hey, they got me. Can you come get me? And so then you have to go in and liberate Qui-Gon, Ethkoth, and Plo Koon. And it's so much dumb fucking fun. And then after that, it turns into the Phantom Menace for the rest of it. There's two Tatooine levels where Padme gets kidnapped by the Tuskens. So
What?
you just indiscriminately murder a fuck ton of Tusken Raiders. The coolest Easter egg on the Tatooine level is that there's a cave painting that when you look at it, you realize it's the LucasArts guy.
Ooh.
Oh, neat. That's
Kind of like holding up the sun thing, which is clever.
I missed that little guy because they used
I
to
miss
do
that little
things where
guy.
like he would get involved in the action, you know, like in the
Yeah,
bounty
like the
hunter
Force
one
Unleashed,
chapter,
like throw the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And, Force
He's in
lightning.
just
the
about
logo.
every game I'm going to be talking about. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just
so,
looked
yeah.
up how much this game goes for on eBay just for shits and giggles. I'm seeing anywhere from $90 to $120. So maybe Obi-Wan is in demand.
Yeah, because it's not backwards compatible. All the
Yep.
games that are backwards compatible have gotten a digital port. So because it isn't like old school Battlefront 2, like I don't think it goes for a whole lot of money physically, unless maybe it might just because people are like collectors and shit. But like you can on my Xbox One, which is basically my little sister's at this point, because she has it back where my family's house, that like the digital version of it with all the DLC is on the Xbox, is in the Xbox store. You can just play old school Battlefront 2. Like that's readily available. Something like Obi-Wan, like if people don't maintain those physical copies, it will become lost media. Because like it just was of an age where you didn't have like all of like all of these retro games from the 2000s have had some amount of resurgence. Obi-Wan really hasn't. It's at the top of my list of like if we're doing remakes and remasters, throw this horrible game a bone, please.
I mean, Episode 1 Racer got a Switch release a couple of years ago, so show some love to Obi-Wan, Lucasfilm or LucasArts or whoever's in charge there now. Do it.
If there's any like Twitch streamers out there who want to do like who are thinking of doing a stream of a game and you happen to have Obi-Wan, maybe give that a go.
There you go.
See, like,
So
listen, once I have this turned into a studio and I start streaming, one of the first things I'm doing is playing Obi-Wan.
So what we did
the people need to know.
The people need it. We just gave them 20 minutes, probably the longest conversation they've ever heard about this game.
Yeah, I apologize.
We need to deliver. It's okay. It's okay. We're gonna move a bit quicker. So we'll start with Conor. The first game you remember playing was what exactly?
So I can't pick just one because there's like 3 games that come to mind. I'm not really going to talk about all of them in depth because like we all know them. Star Wars Battlefront 2, 2005. Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
Nice.
And
yes,
Lego and the 3 Lego Star Wars games. Video game, original trilogy, complete saga.
Bangers and bangers and bangers.
Yeah.
The thing I will always love with Battlefront 2 2005 is I can't remember how I got the invincibility cheat code from a classmate in 4th grade, but I did. And I know that still by heart.
Well, I remember
what cheat code?
The invincibility.
I never had this.
So on which game? I missed you first.
Battlefront 2, the
Battlefront
OG
2.
one.
Up, left, down, left, up, left, right, start. Yep.
Fucking.
Yeah.
I remember. Well, I remember the first time it got brought up. I think
that changed my entire gaming experience.
was it you and I, Connor, and I think Don might have been on that episode too, where someone brought up the fact that they were like, "Oh yeah, we played as Ventress and Kit Fisto in this game." I was like, I don't remember.
Oh yeah,
Jake brought that up.
Star Wars
Yeah.
Yeah, Jake
Battlefront.
brought it up, and they were Xbox exclusive
I
DLC.
thought they were. I thought those were modded in for the longest
which
time. I was like,
I only
didn't
have ever
realize
played it on the
Xbox
PS2,
exclusive.
and I was like,
So-
wait, they're in that game. And I
Ventress
looked
with
it
her
up.
fucking lightsaber nunchucks.
Yeah,
It
I need to
broke
get
me, especially because I have had Battlefront 2 on the Xbox for ages. It was the console I played on, and I never knew about Ventress, so that is nuts
Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah. If I had
Ventress, Renvar, and Cloud City all come into the DLC.
Yep.
Cloud City.
Cloud City
Oh,
wasn't
now
in
I'm
the
even-
base game.
Oh,
That
God
is
damn it, I really
weird.
wanted to
It was
play
in Battlefront
Cloud City.
1. It was in Battlefront 1.
They
but it
have
was not in
fucking
Battlefront
Paulus
2.
Massa in.
Yeah, because it was
2, but they
it was
don't-
Revenge of the Sith tie-in, Andrew. Of course
Look,
they
exactly,
have Paulus
yeah.
Massa.
They gotta have. Yeah,
I mean, the
you
Mustafar
know, it's the
level was
greatest
my
game.
favorite of those.
Mustafar level
for
was
sure.
great.
Yeah.
I have one gripe about old school Battlefront 2 that Battlefront 2 2017 remedied. It was because I'm a sadistic little fuck, and I did this in Obi-Wan all the time as well. There's nothing better in a Star Wars game than force pushing some poor motherfucker off a ledge. And in Battlefront 2005, you don't get
We might
credit
come
for a
back to
kill.
that.
It doesn't give you a kill for it. It does.
Slander.
It infuriates me,
Terrible.
especially because you get health from getting kills as a hero. So, like, my favorite to do is like in the iconic story mode, the Rise of the Empire. When you're on Utapau and Grievous shows up, I will be waiting for him because he lands right in front of like the ledge of the hangar. So he will land, and I'll just be like, "Haha, fuck you," and just hit him with a force push and just ragdoll his candy ass 10 feet
wait.
into the air to his death.
I just remembered another game.
Go
The
ahead.
Revenge of the Sith video game.
Yeah,
Duh.
That's
we're gonna have
that's
a
on my list.
we're gonna have a
So-
lot of repeats.
Yeah. Yeah.
like I'll be talking.
I'll save
in
that.
depth-
I'll save that for
Yeah.
games that made us for later.
That's
be
my
going
blind
in depth
spot, so
about.
I'll be-
We'll be going in depth about Battlefront 2 later, so don't you worry. I'm gonna go ahead and go next. I have a couple visual aids in this one. I guarantee you none of these games are going to be discussed because they are two games. If you notice,
Interesting.
these are Game Boy Advance cartridges. I remember
Oh.
getting both of these around the same time, and aside from multiplayer of the Revenge of the Sith game, where you had the dueling mode, kind of similar to what Jarod was talking about with Obi-Wan, where you could play as like Anakin with the red lightsaber and stuff like that. I was like, oh my god, this is the first one I remember playing, which is Lego Star Wars Trilogy, which is basically I think just GBA versions of the original trilogy, and of course Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, which I also have.
The
right
Revenge of
here
the Sith
on the
Game
PS.
Boy port has one of the hardest things in all of like niche obscure Star Wars, and that is like the 16-bit version of Across the Stars.
I gotta listen to that now. Because first because I was thinking like, what was the first game I remember playing? I remember this Revenge of the Sith port. I played the PS2 version more, but I had the GBA game first. So I remember
I
playing
had the DS version of that. Yeah.
completely forgot that this fucking game existed. It came back in the
So yeah, I thought that's
Little
what that
bit of
was.
my
That's
memory.
not Lego. That's not Lego.
it's
like a fu-
literally
it's like a
called
side
Star
scroller.
Wars Trilogy Apprentice of the Force. So it's like a side-scrolling port. Let's see. Yep. So it only came out through the GBA. You follow Luke Skywalker through the Star Wars trilogy. So I'm like, is this just a port of Super Star Wars? No, it uses the engine of Prince of Persia, according to Wikipedia, and you just play as Luke. So again, my GBA still works. I might boot that up just to see what the hell that game was because I don't remember any of it, but I remember that being one of my earliest gaming memories because I had a GBA. Well, I had my PS2 first, but I had a Game Boy Advance before I had most other systems. So my first experience through a lot of franchises were through crap handheld ports, and
Dude,
that was
I could
one
not
of them.
get off a tattoo on that trilogy
Yeah.
game. I'm watching a playthrough on YouTube
Is it
right now.
is it bad?
I don't know. I'm about to find out.
All right. So, Don, why don't you wrap this corner off before we go into our 3 games? So, what was your first memory here?
Okay, so my first memory of a Star Wars game I played, I have a couple, but the one I would definitively say is Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles that was released on the PlayStation 1. I'm going to try and just, there it is. There's
the fighting game.
cover.
Yeah!
So what it
I
is,
never played it, but I love how it looks.
Oh, it looks so cool. It has the coolest cover art of like Mace Windu and Obi-Wan. But basically what it is, it's a cooperative game where you basically play through Episode 1, the plot of Episode 1, just fight these waves of enemies. And the kind of wrinkle is you don't just play as Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, you get to play as Mace Windu, and you get to play Ardigalia and Plo Koon. But this is like from the pre-Episode 2 time when Plo Koon still had like a yellow lightsaber and Ardigalia had like the dark red version, because like they were kind of being a little bit more.
Does Mace have a blue one in this game? Because I have a like Phantom Menace figure where Mace has a blue saber.
Yeah,
blue lightsaber.
Yeah, it's
which
a blue
I bought
saber
specifically because of the saber. I was like, hold on, I gotta get this.
Yeah, this is like Mace Windu from Phantom Menace when before he got the purple lightsaber thing worked out. But yeah, it's surprisingly difficult. I remember because I played it with my dad a bunch of times, like in the early 2000s, because like that was like right in the grip of like Phantom Menace mania for me, because like I played a bunch of related stuff, and Jedi Power Battles was like a really big part of that. It took me ages to get past the first level of that shit. Like just constantly just the it's surprisingly difficult with the level of like enemies you have to fight and the boss battles and stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I remember I have fond memories of it, and it's just very kind of like like a fuzzy reminder of like my time gaming on the PlayStation 1, just like my whole introduction stage of like gaming. Yeah.
Okay, because this is a different game than I thought it was. Which one was the fighting Star Wars game on the PS1?
You're thinking, I think Masters of Terras Kasi. Yeah, exactly.
Was there
that
a
one? That was
one, or am I making that up? Am I?
I think that's just OT. It's just OT because it was like a Legends-based thing, and that was part of the push for like Terras Kasi as like a martial arts thing. And I don't think the game is considered very like got a lot of a good reputation among fans. I think a lot of people hate it.
A lot of the people who played it at the time, I think, look at Terras Kasi the way I look at Obi-Wan, where it's that like this plays like shit, but like damn, wasn't it cool? Is my understanding of like Terras Kasi post modern day, which is why a little bit of sizzle. This is something I'm going to be doing on TNAP at some point, hopefully like next year. Is that I have, as anybody who follows me on Twitter knows, I have a very long, elaborate pitch for a Star Wars fighting game that
I feel like the closest thing we've had to one has been the dual mode in Revenge of the Sith. That was like its own thing.
Dual mode in Revenge of the Sith.
The Clone Wars game, lightsaber duels.
Yes,
I never had it. That was on the Wii, right? I never had it. I gotta pick that up.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god, I was about to say like that is the most recent Star Wars fighting game we've ever had. But
there's
like,
extra footage of that from the Clone Wars. Like there's a thing where like Ventress confronts Ahsoka. Yeah, and she says to Ahsoka like, "Stand down, little girl, and I'll give you a cookie." So it just kind of like it meshes better with like what Ahsoka actually says in the show, because she goes, "How?" Because it makes following line make more sense when she goes, "Oh, how nice of you. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a merciful death," which is like it's very dark side
Ahsoka. Rosario
but they
took
kept
over
that
for
line
a second.
in, but they cut that line about the cookie, but they kept the line in where Ahsoka just basically says, "I'm gonna kill you."
I'm gonna kill you.
I'll kill you, bitch.
The one thing
showing my girlfriend Clone Wars, by the way, just real quick, that line, watching my girlfriend go when she said that, fucking great. Anyway.
The one thing I found when I was looking for these Game Boy games is I found something I forgot I own, which I've never played. I just bought it. Was the DS Battlefront game, which I don't even remember the name of it.
Elite Squadron.
Never played it. I bought it just to have it, and I found it. And I was like,
I think I have that, but I don't think I ever have played it.
Because I bought it at the same time I bought. Because Battlefront 1 was one that I played as a kid at friends' houses, but never owned myself. So I remembered like 5 years ago, I just bought a copy of that, and I bought a copy of Elite Squadron Online. So that is our first introduction for what we were as Star Wars gaming fans. Jarod kind of took the time to do a little video essay
I
on Star Wars
apologize.
Obi-Wan. But it's
apologize.
okay. It's the content we've probably been teasing for as long as we've been fixtures in podcasting form. So there we go. Conor, I know, has to leave a bit earlier than the rest of us. So Conor, if you want to get started on your games that made you, what are the 3 Star Wars games that define you the most as who you are? So just go right ahead whenever you're ready.
So I'm just gonna get the most obvious one
I
out
was
of the
say,
way.
when's he gonna say it? When's he gonna
The
say it?
Jedi series. I don't really know what else
Yes.
to say other than that. Like, Cal's one of my favorite characters. The gameplay's really cool, nice. The worlds are great. All the side characters that interact with Cal are great. It's really cool. I like it. I like his story a lot. The other one would probably be the Revenge of the Sith video game, and that's because I'm a prequel kid, and so when it came to lightsaber duels, because I grew up with the whole flourish, with like the whole like super athletic and flourishy type of lightsaber duels, I'm so into it. And like the Revenge of the Sith video game just took that and just put it to 1,000 with like how
It was so fun.
swift and flourishy and athletic all the duels were that you could do, like even just in the co-op duels, like just the way the moves and everything. It just kind of really showed my sort of preference for how lightsaber duels need to go. So like that's kind of why, like, you know, some of my favorite duels are kind of, you know, have that sort of movement, like the Obi-Wan and Vader duel on the unnamed moon. Obviously, it's a lot more, you know, there's more broadswordy type deals with it, but there's still like that sort of flourish with it that I always really appreciate.
Yeah, that fluidity of movement is just so cool.
Maybe we'll find out a name for that moon when that reference book comes out later this year. But
please give it to me. I need the name. Come on.
The Revenge of the Sith games combat, it is really interesting because it brings the flamboyance of the swordplay, but it still does feel like really grounded and hefty. You know, like I know I like playing as Anakin.
That
stab is one of the most iconic moves in a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Like, no, not that. Like whenever you do
like heavy attack,
there is a button dedicated to just stabbing. Like you have light attacks, you have heavy attacks, and then you have a lethal attack.
You hear it, and for me at least, when I played it recently, like I could feel it.
Yeah. Like, and they just rear back. They do like a little like whoa whoa, boom, and they just plunge that fucker in there.
Yep. So that really sort of the Revenge of the Sith video game really sort of gave me my preference for lightsaber combat. And my third game would probably, I'm just going to combine in this one, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. Because I played the hell out of the prequel levels, and through playing that video game, I gained a new appreciation for the prequels that I just never really had when they first came out.
They're so fun. Going back to the Revenge of the Sith game real quick, because I don't have it on my list, even though it was one of the first ones I remember playing. First of all, just look at the back of this cover and you just see Vader with the Sith. That shit looks cool as hell, and it makes me wish that he did that in the actual movie. But the other thing...
Yeah, you actually get to see Anakin use Force Lightning.
I remember in the trailer of that game, I think it was the level where Obi-Wan fights the giant crab droid, and I remember going, where was that in episode 3? And I need it right this very instant.
Oh no, fuck that crab droid.
We only got
I'm with Jarod on this one. I hate the crab droid.
Yeah. I just thought it looked cool as a kid. I have no remembrance of the level at all, but I just remember being like, what the hell is that? I don't remember that from the movie. And I have
one to like show up in the third game of Jedi Survivor, like the third Jedi game.
I haven't played the game in probably 17 years, but I have like the Dooku fight ingrained in my mind in that game because you just hear Dooku's like, good, twice the pride, double the fall. Like he says it like 800 times in that.
I
level.
hear that,
Speaking
and
of
I
that-
hear Anakin's death scream.
Oh, thank you for somebody to bring it up.
I think it
The
rivals
new
Yoda's
Lego
death.
Yoda death scream,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Lego Yoda's death is still the all-timer. But
Oh, and then there's Jango Fett's.
Yay!
I think they just
IG88.
they just got Tamir Morrison in for like a few seconds and said, "Tem, just do like a believable death scream." It's brilliant.
Two things. Speaking of Don, you brought up the footage from the Clone Wars that is in the game, the lightsaber battles, which I played and loved as a kid. There's a lot of stuff in Revenge of the Sith that was based off of early treatments of the movie.
don't they have the deleted scenes like in the game as cutscenes?
Yeah,
so
they do.
there's an
Am I making that up?
extended. So yeah, there's a little bit of the deleted scenes. Like you play it. I don't think the scene where they're coming through like the reactor fluid is like
Yeah.
the,
When you
like,
go
the
through like the
actual scene.
underwater part in the
But that's a
Invisible
whole
Hand,
level.
I remember. Yeah,
That's
that's a whole level. I
level.
remember that.
They have a like extra 3 seconds of Dooku. Because it's like your swords, please. You want to make a best of things of another chance. You want to get away this time, Dooku. And then they all turn on their lightsabers. And then for us, in the movie, the fight starts. They keep this like extra line of dialogue where the camera like swings around back to Count Dooku while he's still in that big Makashi opening stance, and he just has this cold like, just because there are two of you, don't think you're going to win, like, or something to that effect. And it's just like, oh man, that motherfucker goes hard every time he opens his mouth.
hear that in Christopher Lee's
I
voice.
remember
It's so
hearing
good.
somewhere that the like Lucas's original cut of Episode 3, like the first hour of the movie is on
The Invisible
The
Hand.
Invisible Hand, and I just like when it's like, oh, the 4-hour cut of Phantom Menace. It's like, I kind of want to see what.
Oh, I want to see the
original
4-hour. I want
3-hour
to see both the 4-hour version of Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. The other thing, just because I think Conor, you and I both share this one, so we can kind of like tag team the Revenge of the Sith stuff.
Yeah.
First of all, the thing that they have in the game that is my favorite is the Mace Windu fight. It is.
Yeah, I see. I've heard of that.
It is a fucking crime that in a movie that already is overstuffed with lightsaber duels,
There's 5 of them in that movie. Yep.
that they cut Anakin v. Windu. Like that fight in the game is so much fun, and for all of the Mace Windu haters out there, the unwashed masses who have beef with Windu, I really love the fact that Mace spends the entirety of that fight trying to reason with Anakin, with sincere concern in that fight. That there's a lot of like Mace being like, Anakin, he is using you. Stop. Like there is a sincere concern in Mace's voice when he's trying to like reel Anakin back in. And I just think that would have gone a long way for both of their characters. Another fun thing, I know that this has been kind of the talk of the town. Those that test footage that Nick Gillard put on his YouTube channel of like the rehearsal fights. Another fun thing is there would be like mini Saberlock mini games in the duels in the Revenge of the Sith game.
I hated those so much.
Well, whenever Anakin, so there's like different versions of them that will get like different success animations from different characters. One of them for Anakin was a move that he was supposed to do on Dooku. So if you watch that test footage that Nick Gillard has posted of like the proto version of the Anakin Dooku fight, there's this moment where Anakin like blocks Dooku up front, brings him like behind the blade behind his back, and then he just fucking elbows him in the face. That is a thing you do in the game when you like successfully like win a blade lock. It's like Anakin will be like
brutal.
Fuck you in the face. He like hammer fists him in the nose.
Yeah.
Did Did they shoot the Windu Anakin fight, or was that just something that got storyboarded and never?
I think it got
How far it's
stored, but
alive.
I know that was like a first draft thing. I do not think that Duke or Windu v Anakin even made it to like a concept art phase.
So that's not even like
To my
something that's in the
knowledge.
novelization or anything
No,
like that. Like
it's not in the novel. It was just one of those like, hey,
they just threw it in the game.
George has that idea, but every video game of Revenge of the Sith has it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Game Boy one you were talking
That
about
makes
has
sense.
it too.
It has
The
it?
Game Boy
Yep.
one has it too.
Yeah, it
and
does actually.
It's
Yeah.
one of the hardest fights in the Game Boy version because you got to memorize Mace's attack patterns. Because you got to like block him low, block him high, block him low, block medium, and eventually he'll like when you parry him enough.
Also,
Um,
the Jedi Temple level, like I know it's really fucking, dark and horrific,
that shit
but
slaps.
like
That shit
it's
slaps.
kind of, it's really fun.
Because it's a level.
Wait. Is this a level where you play as Anakin
Yeah,
at the temple?
Oh
my god.
yeah. It's horrific. Like, look at like as a kid, I can't remember how old I was. That level, I forgot how fun that level is.
Okay,
Oh my
Obviously,
goodness.
Wait, I
now
gotta put Dom at rest. No, you don't kill the fucking kids.
No, yeah, you don't. No,
I love how you like.
I could tell by the look on your face. It's like, is the boss battle a child? No,
Master Skywalker. There are too many of them. Boss battle.
health bar. Starts to
He
fall.
just pulls out a fucking quadruple bladed saber, like, not on my watch.
Yeah, well, no.
Don't-
So
Not on
The-
my
the
watch,
Revenge of
Master
the Sith-
Skywalker.
the Revenge of the Sith game, like, truly prided itself on its swordplay. As Connor and I've been talking about, like, it is just a really satisfying, like, format for the lightsaber combat. And, on nights where I'm back in my hometown, and everyone's gone to bed, I'll replay the Revenge of the Sith game. And what I'll do is I'll play all the boss battles because all the lightsaber duels are great. And the only level I will play to its completion is the Jedi Temple level because you're fighting, you get the exhilaration of a lightsaber duel against enemies with like basic enemy health pools. So it feels more like a lightsaber duel. It feels more like you're fighting hordes of Jedi, which again,
That's
like,
so cool.
and I understand again, like the little narrative dissonance and all of that stuff. I understand why in modern Star Wars storytelling, we have been apprehensive to do like a play as Anakin during Operation Nightfall. I understand why that is not like a palatable like video game mode, especially because like as depicted, like not to bring the mood down and like make it very serious here for a second, like especially after Obi-Wan Kenobi, like it feels like a terror attack or a school shooting now. It's framed that way, and like fuck, like it Kenobi came out right after Uvalde, and there had to be all kinds of content warnings on it, rightfully so. So like because of like stories we've gotten in the canon, I understand why that like this idea is a lot of the time kind of brushed aside as like dude bro like power fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
And I get that. For me, I like that. I like it both in Battlefront 2 and in Revenge of the Sith because it is this opportunity to face off a bunch of Jedi. Where like you get to throw down with Jedi as a basic enemy type. And that's not something you see in any other Star Wars games.
Nope.
Do you get to fight Nick Gillen's character?
Yep. Sindralig is a boss fight.
Yep. Yeah,
Brilliant.
you fight Sindralig and his apprentice.
Oh, that's brutal. This is the thing.
Sarah Keto.
Oh, I didn't know her name, but like
here's the problem with us doing this episode is I'm so upset that my PS2 has been broken for like years now because I want to go back and play all these fucking games, man.
I'm like going on my PS4 right after this and seeing if I can like get that on the store because
I think it's on
I have never
the
played
store. It. I didn't get far in
Is it?
Aside from
because I don't think it. I mean, I don't know if the PS5, PS4 stuff is different, but I don't think it's on the store for me.
It's on. Let's see.
I'm gonna have to have a look.
PlayStation Network in Europe.
It's been a big blind spot for me. It's been a blind spot for me for years because I never played
version on the One and Series X. It's on there, so we'll see.
As backwards compatible, or is like
it's on their store. You can buy it digitally.
How do I turn a VPN on my PlayStation?
I think it's there in the States, but I'm not sure. I'll have to let me read Wikipedia.
Because I'm looking it up in the store now. Because if I can do it, I'm playing it tonight.
Yeah, let's see. Xbox version was added to the backwards compatibility list for the Xbox One. Okay, so it might be, but I can't tell by the wording if it's just in Europe or if it's in the States. But the one thing I've realized talking about this, and even though we're talking about Revenge of the Sith, we talk about this, and then we talk about obviously all the prequels had their own game adaptations. One, I've never played any of the Attack of the Clones games.
Well, that's the thing. I'm sorry.
and two-
sorry. You just keep
two-
going. You keep activating shit in my brain. I apologize.
Yeah, we can
We
get
both
to
just,
it
like,
after
sprang to
because
attention.
Connor's got a dip, so we can get to it after
Yeah.
that. But two,
Yeah, I'm looking on the PlayStation store right now. It doesn't look like
it's not there.
Yeah.
So I've realized doing this just how many
very sad,
adaptations
too.
there were game-wise of just the Phantom Menace's story. Like, not even just tie-in games, but like Obi-Wan counts as one, the actual
So
Phantom
many.
Menace game, Power Battles.
Pod
They were like,
Racer,
we're just gonna do like 8 of them. And then the other one's got that. So Connor, I know you have to dip. You went through your 3, so where can the people find you? And thanks for joining us for the first bit of this episode.
Anytime. You can find me on Twitter at @banana, Instagram ConmanJFO. Where else? Epic Confrontations. I write questions and I co-host there. You can follow our Twitter over at In a Galaxy Trivia, and you can find the Star Wars Epic Confrontations matches on the Star Wars In a Galaxy podcast YouTube channel. That's the only place you can find them. We don't put them out for audios or anything because it's a trivia show. Why the fuck would we do that? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and then of course
So-
over on the Nerd Academy, these two co-hosts there. It's a great time. We'll see you next time, dude. It was great having
See you
back
next time,
on.
buddy.
See you guys.
All right.
Later.
Jarod, I think I reawakened something in you with this Attack of the Clones thing, so I need to hear where you were going with that.
It's so apparent. So this is just so funny, and this is like I only played one of them.
Because there's a clone. Isn't there a game just called Clone
It's called
Wars?
Star Wars:
Yep.
The Clone Wars.
Yeah.
and it is
I have that on
a
GameCube.
And
it
like
is a
I've
vehicle
owned-
combat game that has a handful of like you're on your feet as like Anakin or Mace Windu or whatever. The story to that is fucking insane though.
It really is.
'Cause the
Sith
story was,
Harvester
like-
is crazy.
Yeah, like it's like Count Dooku's trying to like find like ancient holocron of Exarchons to build this weapon called the Dark Reaper. That's like a fucking force drain, but a super weapon.
So is that
really
post Attack of the Clones, or
Yeah.
is that like during the movie?
It's
Interesting.
post
Yeah.
Because I owned Jedi Starfighter and I owned Bounty Hunter, but I never got to play either because when I got Bounty Hunter, my PS2 broke.
Yeah.
So
But like Bounty Hunter, The Clone Wars, there's one called like Anakin's Trial or something that was a Game Boy game that ends with you killing Count Dooku.
there
Like
is
it's like
just a
after
straight
Attack
up
of the Clones.
game adaptation of Attack of the Clones, though, right? Or do they just
No.
not make one?
It did not get a 1-to-1 adaptation the way Phantom Menace or Revenge of the Sith did.
That's so weird.
And even Revenge of the Sith, like it got its movie adapted game, and then it got Battlefront 2, and then
Yeah.
that was pretty much it.
because Battlefront 1 was just the OT. Like
No,
Attack of the Clones
Battlefront
really
Battlefront 1 was 2005, was basically everything we had before Sith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you could play on like Naboo and kill Gungans and shit.
But couldn't you
Yeah.
just be the Rebellion and the Empire? Like you couldn't be clones until
Nope,
2.
it had the Clone War. It had the Clone War in there.
yeah.
It just wasn't any of the Revenge of the Sith
It was
stuff.
Geonosis specific. Yeah, you only had like episode 2 Phase 1 clones. But yeah, the Clone
Yeah.
Wars game that you just mentioned is just crazy because like, the story is really involved. It's surprisingly in depth with the Legends continuity. Like they use
Yeah.
Alaris Prime, the moon from Kashyyyk, and they also
Yeah.
get Kashyyy's name wrong. They call it
You call
Kashyyyk,
it
but
Kashyyyk.
there's
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
talk to like the ghost of Ulic Keldroma and shit.
Ulic Keldroma just shows up and just like
Yeah.
instructs Anakin how to beat it. It's just nuts. Like it's surprisingly like really in depth with Legends lore. And you also like there's also another bounty hunter who works for Count Dooku because he was just like
games, man.
Sidon Prax is his name. He's a little generic looking compared to like Dirge and and Jango Fett, obviously, but he's fun. You know, he kind of like there's like a duel, and he just like sneaks up like a little bitch and just pops Anakin in the shoulder with a tranquilizer. It's just like it's not like
this isn't a video game, but I sent this in the Discord, but I thrifted the other week a Battle of Geonosis board game that came out like when Attack
I
of the
saw
Clones came
that.
out.
Yeah.
I want to at some point see if we can do it on like an episode and like figure out a way to do that, because
That would be so much fun.
just prime like prequel era board games and shit. I'm like, I gotta find a way to make this work. All right, so we are back. Took a little bit of a break. Again, farewell to Conor. It was nice having him back on. But Jarod, since you started with your first game, technically with Conor, with the Revenge of the Sith game, why don't you just continue on? And
yeah. So Revenge of the Sith. Now, listen. My next pick over the last few years has become controversial, I guess. But a conversation about our favorite Star Wars games and the Star Wars gaming pantheon would be incomplete without talking about The Force Unleashed.
yes.
Now, again, a little bit of sizzle. I plan on doing like a multi-part series on the Nerd Academy about The Force Unleashed. I have like 2 podcasts and a video essay planned.
Oh my god, that sounds epic.
Now, I know, because listen, what system? So, okay, did you guys play The Force Unleashed?
Yeah.
Okay,
Bits and
Absolutely.
pieces of it, yeah.
what did you? I just realized I knocked this light askew when I came back. What systems did you guys play The Force Unleashed on?
Xbox 360. I had to get the
Xbox
Xbox
360,
360 version because of the Vader. The Vader level is just like
Because
the
the one I have has like the chrome cover, and it's like got the Star Killer mask on it. I don't remember what
Ooh,
it's called. I
nice.
think it's called like, the
Ultimate
Ultimate
Sith
Sith Edition. Yeah,
Yep.
that's the one I have.
So, I first played The Force Unleashed on the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
And
what?
the Wii port of the game. So not to tip my hand too much for the stuff I have planned on TNAP. The one of my like favorite, like really stupidly specific things about The Force Unleashed is all of the weird differences between the ports.
Yeah.
For example, the boss battle on Raxus Prime, on Imperial Raxus Prime, is Proxy, where he famously turns into Darth Maul at the end, and it's this big,
So cool.
moment, right? That does not happen in the Wii port at all. You just fight a Shadow Guard in the ore cannon. And
what?
you do not get to play the pulling the Star Destroyer out of the sky. It's a cutscene. It's fully a cutscene, and the reason why you have to pull the Star Destroyer out of the sky is kind of confusing because you can't tell if the Star Destroyer is going to like attack the rogue Shadow or if it's just about to crash into the facility. They never make it clear. You just see it leave the shipyard in orbit and just kind of start going towards the planet, and then you, for some reason, pull it down, but like you give it kind of an easy landing, so everybody who was on that Star Destroyer is very much alive and just saw you do that shit. Whereas in the Xbox version, you like have to do it yourself, and like that ship crashes and definitely kills at least 90% of the people on board in the process. But no, the Wii version, I love both versions of that game. The combat was so much fun. The Ultimate Sith Edition is a version I played on the Xbox once I eventually got an Xbox 360, which came with like all of these different character costumes. You could play as like Anakin or Mace or Plo Koon. There was a
so
version.
many costumes.
There was a
so
skin.
Many.
There was a skin of Galen in the Clone Wars art style, which I always thought was neat.
Yes. And there's a version of like him that looks like Guybrush Threepwood from the.
That's in Force Unleashed 2. That's in Force Unleashed 2.
Oh, right,
yeah.
of course, yes.
Are we talking like Tartakovsky Clone Wars or like Dave Filoni?
Filoni Clone Wars.
No, that's
It was
really
the same
cool.
year. It was the same year that the
yeah.
Clone Wars debuted. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think the Force Unleashed gets a bad rap because It was a Star Wars game that was designed to. I think it's the game that broke how people view the Force.
yeah.
I know we're talking
Definitely.
about games. I will say if you want a more holistic, more feels like Star Wars is supposed to feel version of the story, read the book. The novelization is again, the novelization is also super fucking weird. Because in the novel, Galen's like having premonitions of the future all the time. Like at one point, he has a vision of a potential future that is the Sith Stalker.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, so like all of that to say, I think it's a very fun hack and slash game that is, it is very Star Wars Legends to its core.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Like the Star Wars canon, it just did shit. It just did shit, like
Absolutely,
we had
yeah.
a whole 4-season television show that was dedicated to how the Rebel Alliance was formed. And that's cool. And how the Rebel Alliance forms in Legends, you have all these different versions. I cannot imagine today someone being butt fuck crazy enough to go, Darth Vader and the Emperor accidentally started the Rebel Alliance.
Yep.
That's like to this day, that shit has never stopped blowing my mind. That was the
Yeah.
decision they made with the story. As a kid,
This
I didn't like it.
alliance that we have unwittingly created will be our undoing. And it's like, that's another thing to say about the game as well, that it's the introduction of Sam Witwer to like the wider Star Wars thing. Because like,
Yeah.
he's really good in this. Like, it was really cool that he got this character that to play as himself. And like, you also like got him voicing the Emperor, which was just it was quite impressive. I like to find out that he also did the voice for Palpatine. And the voices cast is also kind of funny as well, because you also have like Matt Sloan voicing Darth Vader as well. From is it Chad Vader? Is that
Yeah.
the web
Hot
series?
take. You're right. It's Chad Vader. Hot take. Conversations about like semi AI James Earl Jones and Kenobi aside. If they just ever decide to like straight up recast Vader now that James Earl Jones has kind of officially hung it up, but seemingly gave them permission to like generate his voice, just have Matt Sloan. I think Matt Sloan is
now.
Yeah, I seriously like. I mean, there's that, but like I played the Force Unleashed before I saw Chad Vader, so like
Yeah,
hearing
same.
like Matt Sloan's. There's something about the way that Matt Sloan pronounces his vowels as Darth Vader. It just feels right.
Yeah.
Again, another fun thing with like the ports of the Force Unleashed, because I got a PSP like way late into like the life cycle of a PlayStation Portable, and I played the Force Unleashed on that as well. And where Force Unleashed on the Wii had a dual mode, which was kind of clunky, and it doesn't live up to the legacy of like other Star Wars games that have an unofficial fighting game baked into it. But they had what was called historic battle missions in the PSP port, where like you'd play as like Luke on Jabba's sail barge, or you'd play as Anakin defeating Dooku on the Invisible Hand, and it was like rendered in the game. You're like walking through Dooku's quarters, but they would play the audio from the movie, and it was always funny because all of these character models all had the like edgelord posture of Starkiller. So they all had that like stance.
Yeah, like with the like Jarkai, I think. No, Jarkai is the dual one, like the inverse saber grip. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Well, but that's the other thing. In the Wii and in the PlayStation versions, he doesn't have the reverse grip.
Yeah, true.
He just holds his lightsaber like a normal fucking person. Again,
I remember
there
seeing
are
that.
so many.
Why did they like
weird little
completely
differences.
change most of the game? I don't get it.
Well, that's the thing, though.
Yeah,
There's
the
a whole
story is
level as
identical.
well.
The story is identical. All of the major beats of this story between all of the different ports are the same.
Was this
Except
game
for really weird details?
Was Force Unleashed, like, even in Legends continuity, even considered like canon, or was it even back then like And we're kind of
was.
stretching the truth here.
It was because I think it was very easy to kind of tie it to canon a little more because of the fact that, spoilers for the story, like Galen dies at the end, which, obviously made so much sense. If you've got basically Force Goku walking around, he can't really live because he would break the events. Exactly. And then The Force Unleashed 2 came out, and then that was like, it was just got really weird and like messy with the canon and stuff, which, I think
And
that one doesn't
didn't
have as
Force
good a
Unleashed give us
reputation.
like a 7th Shakti death as well? Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you fight her on Felucia,
Yeah,
and there's
you
also,
kill
like,
her.
this. Yeah, you kill her basically. She's the one that you kill, the only Jedi that you kill that you actually kind of feel bad for, because there's like Kazdan Paratus, he's the same species as like Rats Terrell from the pod race thing, and he's got like these little tiny little legs that he's on, and he's got like kind of a staff but with a little saber on the end, and he's like really delusional, and he's built like a whole council with all these like scrap metal versions of all the Jedi Council, and he's just like ranting to them like, "Don't worry, masters, I'll protect you from this Sith trash."
Yeah, it's so bizarre and dark.
It's so bizarre, yeah.
But yeah,
was the Vader "I lied" cutscene, was that from 1 or 2?
It's from the Xbox version, yeah.
2, yeah, that's from 2.
Oh yeah, okay.
With the well, I think he says it. No, it's from 1. It's that you agreed to stay away. I lied, just as I have from the beginning. But like in the dark side ending to 2, you also get Vader being like, like he's just trolling you. Because my like hot take on the story of Force Unleashed 2 is that you are not playing as a Starkiller clone. Everybody refers to the Galen you play as in that game as his clone, and in my opinion, the dark side ending, where Vader does his whole spiel like, I lied when I told you the cloning process had not yet been perfected. That like he is telling you, no, this is the clone. Why would I make a clone of you who's mentally unstable and this powerful, who wouldn't listen to me? This is the clone, you dumbass. You're you. But then that's always been my interpretation of that scene.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. Because Force Unleashed 2 is a little iffy with the whole like kind of clone thing, but like Force Unleashed 1, I still have really fond memories of it because I very much remember the zeitgeist of when it came out, because like, back then Star Wars kind of seemed done, because like we weren't sure of how the Clone Wars was going to shake out. It kind of looked like it was going to be more centered around like appealing to kids, really, based on the kind of trailers and stuff, and we didn't know yet the depths of like the amazing heights of storytelling it would rise to. But like, Force Unleashed was kind of like almost kind of like a big swing from like the Legends crew of like, how do we grab people's attention? Let's basically pull the trigger on this somewhat universe breaking idea of like having a, basically a Super Saiyan type Force user who can, as you said, pull Star Destroyers out of the sky. It's kind of a similar mindset of like, Joe Schreiber's Death Troopers, like introducing something weird and like such a wild swing as into the Star Wars galaxy. But yeah, I have fond memories of it.
And that's
the two things I remember in 08 as like kind of just being on the outside of it, where I did watch Clone Wars as it came out, but I remember seeing things like, Anakin's Skywalker's Padawan, and then also seeing Darth Vader has a secret apprentice. Coming out around the same time. And like 10-year-old me was like, wait, what is this? And I have one of the Force Unleashed Lego sets that they put out that has a Starkiller minifig in it, even though I didn't play the game until like
Rogue Shadow.
Yep. And I think he's just called Vader's secret apprentice, like in the set.
He is, yeah. They were weirdly cagey about his real name and like his origin.
Soul Calibur, I'm pretty sure he's just called the Apprentice. I might be wrong.
So yeah,
but
it's just the Apprentice. Well, for the longest time they did that, and then like the only thing you got, and that's another funny thing. Again, like the differences between the ports. Though, so you've with like throughout the game, you get that Eclipse to Starkiller, where like, oh, like his code name is Starkiller, and like you find that out with like in the very first fucking level you play as Galen. You only hear Eclipse to Starkiller during the Death Star level in the Wii version.
That's nuts.
Really,
like I said, does it truly change or affect the game? No. Is it weird that it's different? Yeah. What's going on there? And again, like I said earlier, like to people who their biggest hang up with the Force Unleashed is the Galen Merrick is a Force God thing. Read the novel, because so much of the novel is more focused on the interpersonal drama. That like you don't get these weird moments where Galen is like, manhandling Jedi Masters like it's nothing. Like I do truly think that like the craziest thing he does in any version of the first entry into the Force Unleashed is the thing with the Star Destroyer. But even that is depicted as like he basically almost passes out doing it, and he doesn't do it successfully. Like like he still almost gets hit by it when it's crashing. And he so like that's always been my thing, is that I don't think Galen Merrick is that powerful. When all is said and done, you feel incredibly powerful because you press the B button and a stormtrooper flies a mile in the other direction. But like all of the other bosses are like more powerful than you. Like
it would get so brutal as well. Like you could literally lift them off the ground and throw a lightsaber in them and microwave them with force lightning.
Yeah, and then throw them at somebody and then they explode. Yeah, no.
I stop TIE fighters like flying by if you were quick enough as well. Like I love
and once
doing
you
that.
grab them with the force, they like crumple up into a ball.
It's so
and
satisfying.
Then they were just like a nice little projectile.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did love the Force Unleashed as a kid. When I would go to my Nana's on the weekend when I was playing it on the Wii, I would beat the game once a weekend. Like it was just, rinse and repeat, hang out with Nana, watch a movie. Okay, everyone's going to go to bed. I'm going to go downstairs and play the Wii, and I'm going to get like halfway through the game, go to bed, wake up early, and then play the other half of the game before anybody wakes up. Like it was just what I did, and the Force Unleashed is a very, very, very special place in my heart. And it is my life's mission to reclaim it from the dude bros who don't actually understand anything about Star Wars.
Yeah, that's a worthy cause, in my opinion, for sure.
All right, so what other games do we got to talk? So we got Revenge of the Sith,
I have
Force Unleashed, and then what's your third?
So I think Dom and I actually have one in common. So I think you should throw to Dom because you alluded to post Return of the Jedi. So I think we're on the same wavelength.
Okay.
All right. Well, so Don, go ahead.
Well, the game I'll be suggesting here, because I have three. So like obviously we all do, but like so the first one I'm gonna mention is Star Wars Jedi Academy, which like it is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars games because like I just love it. Like there's just so much about it that's so cool. Because like Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, the predecessors to this, where with Kyle Katarn, it was one of my introductory kind of things to like the wider story of Legends. It was so exciting to me at the time playing that game because of like, this is after a Return of the Jedi. There's all this other stuff like, there's this new character who's also a Jedi, and all these other concepts and stuff like Valley of the Jedi and Desan, who's basically like he's like a dinosaur. He's kind of like the dinosaur guy from the Obi-Wan show, but like just like with a smaller dinosaur head.
He's kind of like awesome. Bowser from the live-action Mario movie.
No.
Pretty much, yeah.
But like a horrifying dark Jedi, yeah.
Yeah. He's genuinely
Jedi
intimidating.
Outcast is my third one. That is my third one.
It is really awesome. But like
Jedi, I had a feeling that's what you were talking about.
But Jedi Academy, I have to kind of just inch Jedi Academy just above Jedi Outcast. I almost considered putting them both together, but for me, it's Jedi Academy because it represented the kind of wish fulfillment in a way of like being in the Star Wars galaxy, because you get to like create your own Jedi Padawan. Like, yes, you have a character in it. His or her name is Jaden Core. They're a person from Coruscant. They built their own lightsaber, and that's why they kind of go to Luke Skywalker's temple, the Masasi Temple on Yavin 4. And there's it's got a more basic story for sure than Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, because you kind of need a more broad strokes journey for Jaden, given that they're a character that you're investing more of your personality into. But it was really awesome, the kind of missions you get to go on. They really took the engine they developed, Raven Software. They really took the engine they developed with Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and just refined it to perfection, because you don't just get to have like the single blade, you get to have the double blade. You have to get a double-bladed lightsaber, and you also get to use two sabers. And the kind of moves you can do when you're fighting like Darksiders, like you fight these like Reborn, who are like these clone dark, like force-infused dark Jedi, because they were still using dark Jedi quite heavily around that time. But you get to fight all these Darksiders with these awesome moves. You can do like a cartwheel and like throw lightsabers and just do all this kind of cool stuff. And the missions, there's a real variety of them too. Like you get to go to Tatooine and fight Tusken Raiders. You go to like Vader's castle on Vajun, which is like there's like acid rain that flies down, so you have to run from cover to cover.
Vajun.
And
Vajun.
Oh my god, it's so difficult. I had to learn Force Protect just to get through that. And there's
I
like
know,
there's like
it's horseshit.
versions I think
It's
of the Dark
horseshit.
Troopers that you face. It's so annoying, but it's worth it for like the jewels you get at the end of that level with your like, because you also have like there's other characters there. There's like Rosh. There's the one level that I have like a bugbear about is the one level where you basically go there to this Imperial facility thinking it's going to be a cakewalk, and then you get surrounded by all these invisible guys, and there's this like slightly there's this one Imperial officer who's like, oh, not as easy as you thought, is it, Jedi? And he throws you in a cell, takes your lightsaber, and you have to spend the whole level without your lightsaber, and then you have to fight him shooting a rocket launcher at you, which is so difficult, but it's so worth it when you nail his ass, for sure.
There's something deeply funny about a British accent going, when you nail his ass. That just made me happy.
Jarod, if you want to
happy to provide
to Jedi Outcast now.
Yeah, no, so Jedi Outcast, it's funny. I never actually like organically beat Jedi Outcast. It's one of those games that like to this day I just like get lost playing and can't figure out where in the fuck I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to do.
I have it on the Switch when it got re-released, and I like couldn't get through the first level, so I'm like, I'll play this later, and I just never got
around to it. Yeah, and I you know, one of those are one of those, you know, I'll get to it eventually, probably when I start streaming stuff. You know, get and humiliate myself because I don't know where the fuck I'm going. But I do like, you know, as a kid, like once I figured out cheat codes exist, I was like, I'm gonna unlock all the levels and just like kind of play this a la carte. And like no, but like, I do love again, like I know the story and I like got it in bits and pieces as I played it, but like then went back and okay, this is what it's about. Kyle Katarn is a really fun character. He's a character that as I've gotten older and like, you know, I'll admit as a teenager, I had a very edgelord view on Star Wars and the Force. And Kyle Katarn was kind of my guiding light for that. With a lot of the like, there's no such thing as dark side and light side. It's all about how you use the Force. And it's like, no. Antithetical to this whole story.
Like, yeah, it's okay to use Force choke on people or like Force lightning. Incidentally, the way you can use force, they call it Force grip, but like you can choke people out with it. But you can also like hurl them off ledges. And I have got to say, since we talked about death screams earlier, the satisfaction I would often get from like force gripping a Rodian merc that has come to get you and just like hurling him off the edge and hearing him go, ah! It's brilliant. It's a weird sadistic pleasure
I would
that you
rarely
get
use
from
force
like
grip.
dispatching these guys.
I hit him with that force push every time, just a little.
It's so good, yeah. Like they just fly off.
Design,
like,
I will say the sound design for Jedi Outcast and like the games that it's connected to, iconic. So many of those sounds like are still being used today. Like the force speed sound, the telekinesis sounds, a lot of that stuff, like that very specific like choke noise, you still hear it. You still hear it. Like you know exactly what I'm talking about if you played the game. For me, the mode that I enjoyed the most was like the free for all, where it's just a fuck fest of like a bunch of people with lightsabers, motherfuckers who shouldn't have lightsabers,
carving each other up.
Oh yeah, you'd have this like one fat Rodian come running through with a lightsaber, carving people up, and then he gets jumped by Mon Mothma with a lightsaber.
Oh no!
You can play as Mon Mothma in that, yeah.
Yeah.
And in Jedi Academy, you get to play as like Boba Fett as well, and that was my realization that Boba Fett in Legends survived the Sarlacc, because there's a whole mission where you fight Boba Fett, where you go somewhere and Boba Fett is just flying around shooting at you, and you literally have to hide, otherwise he will murder you. If you don't,
the fact that so many of these games were coming out at like the same time is crazy to me.
We had like the 2000s have a glut of Star Wars games.
Yeah, because like your Jedi Academy came out the same year as KOTOR, which I'm pretty sure came out the same year as a lot of those Attack of the Clones tie-ins that we were talking about earlier, and it's just
Incidentally,
it's insane.
female Jaden,
to think about.
female Jaden, voiced by Jennifer Hale, the voice of Basta LaShawn. So that's a little connection point. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, no, I think that, one of the things that I think Star Wars fans have had like a gripe with is like the lack of Star Wars games in the Disney era. Like we're coming up on 10 years of Disney Star Wars, and
we've had what,
Fallen
5,
Order,
4?
Fallen Order, Battlefront, Squadrons,
and Survivor. We've had 5.
Yeah.
There's
you
also like a
don't-
mutated run.
Yeah, Hunters is coming out, and then if you don't count like Galaxy of Heroes,
Trying to show this. There is a mutated ass Rancor in Jedi Academy. It's crazy. There's 2 Rancor levels, and the second one is this mutated Rancor. Because we didn't even talk like about the fact that they tried to say that the Rancors we saw in the original trilogy were female, and then the male ones just have these ridiculous tusks. in the Force Unleashed, it's crazy.
Yeah, the bull Rancor. Well, that was the funny thing,
Yeah.
and again, that's one of those like weird little discrepancies where it was like, oh, this is actually what a male Rancor looks like, and then it turned into, no, actually, the bull Rancor is a special kind of Rancor. It's not just a guy. Legends is wonderful, but I do think a lot of why there was such a weird drought of Star Wars games for so long was because of the EA license. And that like so many games were like, there's one studio, there was one publishing house. It was like one company that had like a handful of studios. It could only work on so much at one time. You look at this era, it's Ravensoft, it's Activision, it's, whatever did Obi-Wan, it's BioWare. It's like all of these different companies are all working on Star Wars games at the same time. And I think if you look now, like with all the different like video game buns that are in the oven, between Outlaws and the other shooter that's in development and the one that will not be named, and
but that's not coming out.
Probably not. And if it does, it'll probably be under a different developer, and we could celebrate it. Hopefully,
yeah.
But there's a lot of Star Wars games that are in development now, and I think it's because EA aren't the only ones who can do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I truly do. I also think there's something to be said for the fact that we as kids, especially the prequel generation, who are mostly the ones who were complaining about the lack of Star Wars games, we showed up and got into these by the time most of them were out. So we already had this vast library that existed before we picked up a game controller. I think that's part of it as well. But no, I absolutely love Jedi Outcast. I'm just a man with a lightsaber and a few questions is one of the hardest lines in all of Star Wars.
Exactly. And you get the curse word Siths bit, and you go to like these really cool. You get to go to Bespin in Jedi Outcast. You get to go to Bespin and fight in the ventilation area where Luke and Vader fought, and it's just so awesome. And you meet Billy D. Williams shows up as Lando, and you get like
amazing.
It's just so cool, so much cool stuff. And you get to go to Nar Shaddaa as well. Those disruptor rifles are a pain in the neck.
You're right, but it's one of my all-time favorite Star Wars blasters to use.
It's cool. Oh, it's so cool. It's so satisfying to like get someone with it and watch them disintegrate. But my goodness, the amount of times that happened to me when I played that as a kid, I just like step out, I like a toe around a corner, and I just vaporize instantly. It was nuts.
All right, so Don, what is the second game you want to talk about then?
So the second game that I am bringing to the table here is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, because I could not possibly have a video game episode and not bring up Episode 1 Racer. I do love some racing games. Like I played Wipeout so much on the PlayStation, and Episode 1 is like just a perfect blend of that with Star Wars goodness. Like it's so fast, it's so like intense to play through, and it's surprisingly difficult to like make it through. I'm using the word surprisingly difficult with these games a lot, but they were tough. The racetracks on episode 1 are very creative as well. Like you go to all these cool places, like you go to Uvu 4, which was my personal favorite because you'd go through these like levitating corridors that give you Bespin vibes, and there's just a lot of neat places you go to, like Malastare, Tatooine, and you have to unlock the main track from episode 1, the one that's more like accurate to the movie, by like you don't get that until you go to like go through all the different like circuits. And it's really cool because like you go through all these circuits, all these different planets, and you have the full roster of these Star Wars races, and it really helps invest you in all the various characters. So like by the time I watched episode 1 for like the third or fourth time, I knew all the races. I knew like Teemto, Pagaliz, Dud Bol, Gazgano, all of them. It's because that, and it really makes you appreciate the pod racing aspects. I know some people some of the fandom back in the 2000s clowned on pod racing a lot, but like I always loved the pod racing, and this game just really the fact that we haven't got like we haven't got a remake of like a game like this, and I feel like it's just like you said back when we covered a certain animated episode.
We thought it was a pilot for a game. And
I said, like we need a new Star Wars racing game. Like there's so many possibilities there, and I just feel like episode 1 Racer is like really special to me for that reason, because like it really achieved Lucas's whole kind of real interest and passion for like speed. Like you feel racing, the speed. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I remember I played Racer a lot. I didn't have an N64 growing up, but I played Racer a lot, like at my friend's house. And it was a fun time. And then I got it when it was released on the Switch. And I for a few days, I was just playing that nonstop. It was great.
Exactly.
I have never played either of the 2 sequels. So Super Bombad Racing or Racer Revenge. I've never played either of them. And those are 2 that I want to, again, pick up once I get my working PS2 once more. Because there's just so many holes in my like gaming knowledge that I just want to fill, and that's another really fun one. I fucking love that game. So finishing things off for you, what do you got for us?
So like to cap this off, basically cap my selection of 3 off, I am gonna go with I don't think anyone else has picked this, Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike. So like Rogue Squadron 2, because the Rogue Squadron games, like there's 3 of them, and the first one was on N64, the second one was one of the early titles for GameCube, and then they brought the third one out I think around 2004 2005, like not I think in between episode 2 and 3, but like Rebel Strike was one of my most anticipated games to play on the GameCube during that time, because like I played Rogue Squadron Rebel 2 Rogue Leader a lot, because like it's basically a starfighter game series where you control all the different like Rebellion era starships and go on all these missions. So like in Rogue Leader, you do the Death Star run, and you do the Hoth mission, and like just some extra missions as well, like a bombing run to a prison with a Y-wing, and you fight a Star Destroyer with a B-wing. And Rebel Strike 2 Rebel Strike takes everything from the Rogue Leader game and just elevates it completely. You don't just get all the stuff from the previous game. Like you could literally play Rogue Leader in a co-op mode on Rebel Strike. That's how like packed this game is. But you also got ground level missions. Like you could basically play an ATST, which was like really fun. Like you could just mow down stormtroopers with it. Like of course you do the Ewok level with Chewie piloting the ATST, and it's really fun. And you'd get the spaceship levels, but you'd also get like ground levels where you'd run around with the blaster. And they really sold the game on the fact that you could do the whole bit from Empire Strikes Back where Luke like latches onto the AT-AT and just blows it up with the grenade. And it was so satisfying to do. It's really kind of like simple. You just like flick the C stick to open on the GameCube controller to like open the hatch and chuck a grenade in. But it was so viscerally satisfying to do back then.
I'm looking at the cover art of it now. It's a sick looking cover of Luke with the saber.
It's so good.
Going
the
up
cover
against
is
the
so
AT-AT.
cool. And it's just so packed as well. Like there's a mission. One of my favorite missions to do on that is where you play as Wedge Antilles, and you get your ship, your X-wing gets shot down over Geonosis, and you crash land there, and you have to go on foot as Wedge, and you find Obi-Wan's deactivated Jedi Starfighter, and you fix it, and you fly back up and fight TIE fighters. It's the coolest shit. And this is after you've fought off on the ground a resurrected Republic gunship that the villain is trying to use to kill you with. It is so cool.
I gotta play
Yeah,
this game.
it's like
I've never
there's so
played
much
this game.
awesome stuff.
I gotta play this game.
I've never
And
played
I'm
Rogue
get a hold of
Squadron,
it.
and this
I'm
looks cool as fuck.
notoriously garbage at space combat in Star Wars. It doesn't matter what freaking game it is. Horrible at it.
The
I wanna
controls
play
are
this,
genuinely
though.
quite good because you can like slow down and speed up. But like a personal favorite memory I have, and this is something I spoke to you about before we went on air, Andrew, to queue up a
Tell me when you
certain
need me
sound
to-
effect.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll give you the go ahead like this. But basically, there's also a multiplayer versus level in addition to the co-op, where you don't just get the original trilogy ships and like the Jedi Starfighter. You can use N1s, and of course, you get to fly Slave One and loose those beautiful seismic charges with the one of the best noises in all of Star Wars. Hit it, Andrew.
I still think it's the greatest sound in all of Star Wars.
So damn satisfying. But yeah, I played that so much with my little brother at the time, and I remember my little brother would like, because he was such a mega fan of Jango Fett and Boba Fett and Slave One, and he would just like, whenever he was like playing, he would just spam the shit out of the seismic charge, and it was so weirdly satisfying just to hear like so many of them go off. And they just did the whole thing accurately with the sound, all the surrounding sound fading out, and the thing just like exploding. It was just mwah, gorgeous. That game is honestly severely underrated as far as Star Wars games go, in my opinion.
You know, I don't know much about the Rogue Squadron like
Me neither.
franchise. You know, that was just one of those like, oh yeah, it's a ship game, cool. But
I
no,
was too
like
young when they came out.
that's
so I don't remember it.
yeah, you gave that a solid pitch because the
Obi-Wan on Geonosis thing, I'm like, I need to play this game right this very second.
Yeah, and there's all these different TIE fighter variants as well. I'm pretty sure there's a level where you literally are flying, they do a trench run thing, but with the Superstar Destroyer, which is pretty awesome. I never finished it because it's so hard, but it's really cool, for sure.
Oh, I gotta play this now. All right, so on to my own. I've brought them out. I scurried through my storage. I have 2 of them with me. I do not have the third one, which I guess I'll bring up right now. Conor brought it up earlier. It's Jedi Fallen Order for me. I don't have the deep connection to it that Conor or even Jarod does. And I'm still, unfortunately, one of the sorry souls that have not yet played Survivor because of my lack of a next-gen system.
My heart
Eli's
breaks for you, man.
insistence on asking me a Survivor question in Epic Confrontations, I'm still salty about. I'm just glad no one else got that right, so it didn't factor into the match. But the first game, I remember the build up to it. I remember I believe it was at an E3 where they were like, oh, we're getting a story-driven Star Wars game in the aftermath of Order 66. And at the time we were like, oh, well, we've seen this a lot lately. But the game came out and I was there at Celebration Chicago when they unveiled the first trailer, and we got to see a glimpse.
that first
of
trailer was
Trilla, and we got to see Cal and everything. It was so euphoric, and then playing that game and getting to meet the Mantis crew. I last episode raved about how much I love Marin as a character, and how much Cal Kestis spoke to me. BD1 instantly becoming an instantly iconic, cute Star Wars droid. The story of Seer and Trilla. There's just so much to this game that I love. Even just the little things like progressing through the game to not only find more saber parts, but to add to your saber, eventually getting that double blade, getting to choose what color blade that you want, which is something that it's one of the few things in this age of we have to have these canon stories in the games where you can have a little bit of leeway, where you can choose.
Yeah.
In this, Cal's going to be wearing a pink poncho and he's going to have a purple blade. And it was just cool stuff like that, getting to find the little bits of the collectathon stuff. And then, of course, perhaps now my thing with Fallen Order is I love this game. I'm horrible at it. I had it on, I think, the 3rd highest difficulty. And then I switched that shit to easy mode. And then near the end, because I got stuck on the final Trilla boss, I was like, nope, this is going right down to story mode. I need to finish this game.
So, do you want to hear a little trick for fighting Trilla?
Go ahead.
Please.
Okay, so if you die fighting Trilla, like the first time, if you don't beat her on the first try, she's done you a service. Is what you do is you lead her into that corner, like the top left corner in the little interrogation chamber. You dodge around her, and while her back is to you, force slow, and then do like the twin saber attack. Then you get your health and your force back. So then you can slow her again, and then do it again. And while she's still recovering from that, you can if you time it right and you have enough force meter, hit her one more time. You melt like the first third of her health bar by doing that. It's a little cheese. But
I just remember
strategy.
Like,
I'll take that, given that I took me at least 10 goes to beat Trilla. She was by far the hardest boss for me in the game. Like,
I think the hardest boss for me was the Ninth Sister, but Trilla gave me issues too. Just that Kashyyyk level changed me. Of like, this is a different way that we view this planet that we've known in some way, shape, or form since the beginning of Star Wars, and it's a completely different look at it. The Nur final level, insane. And I just remember
the image,
little bits.
Yeah.
Yep.
The image of Fortress Inquisitorius is just like when the pod with Cal lands is just burned into my brain because it's just so beautiful to look at. It's like
and
a painting.
I just remember like when COVID hit and we were all stuck inside. I had like a third left of the game. And I think from like the last Dathomir mission onwards, I just took like 2-3 days, beat the whole rest of the game, and just I'm so mad that I had the Vader reveal spoiled for me beforehand. Because if I didn't know that was coming, and the same thing, there's another very similar thing in Survivor that I got spoiled for me that I'm furious I know. But if I didn't know that Vader was going to come out of the shadows during after the Trilla fight, that may have been like a top 5 Star Wars moment of all time for me.
It's incredible. It really is. The footsteps and just like the music.
And it was one of the things where like, you truly have no way out. And I did not know at first that there was no way that you could like escape Vader near the end. I was like, what's going on here?
I was scared for Cal. Yeah. I was so scared for Cal when Vader showed up. I thought, oh no, he's not making it out of this. And just
it was so good. But also, fuck the Agobagno. Like, fuck that. That thing gave me more difficulty than almost any enemy in any Star Wars game. Hate that fucking thing.
That thing is probably the most despised creature in all of Star Wars video games.
There's this joke line in Battle Scars about it, which I find hilarious. I'm still trying to finish that book.
Hilarious.
But it was a little thing where I'm like, shout out Sam Maggs. But what were you saying?
Sam Maggs is the best.
Well, I love Jedi Fallen Order. I'm not gonna like get super into like why I think the story is as amazing as it is. I know who's the co-host on this podcast. I'm sure anything I have to say about the story of Fallen Order has been said on this show before. I will say Fallen Order holds a very special place in my heart. The only reason it wasn't on my list was because I knew I was on this episode with Conor. So I was like, yeah, we can just talk about it together.
Yeah. He's exactly the same reason I didn't put it on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, Andrew probably has it too. And, so there it works. So twofold. One, I beat Fallen Order within a weekend because I wanted to be able to review it from my old show, and I didn't want any spoilers. So now I will say I did that on story mode. I did not do that with Survivor. I played it on Jedi Knight, and it involved 2 all-nighters. This is not good for me. But no, so I get to Nur and the Vader fight. It was not spoiled for me. So I hear the footsteps and And I out loud went,
So good.
fuck. Like, just like that. Like, I was like, this might as well happen.
Doesn't
You know?
Anakin's dark deeds kick in too?
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
And
It's
you're
like,
like-
and then,
The way this game uses the John Williams music, because it uses
Oh.
it so sparingly, because the soundtrack is amazing. Like, you know,
When Anakin's
the-
betrayal kicks in during the Order 66 flashback, killed
my
me.
heart.
Again, had that
My
spoiled for me
heart.
too, but it still worked so well.
And it's still one of the most devastating Order
And
66
its original,
flashbacks with
Yeah.
its
Jarod
original
Tapal.
score is great too. So,
And I can't, yeah, exactly. I cannot mention the score without mentioning the Who's like incredible like Suganisana track. I love that thing so much. It is the most badass like Star Wars track. That track I think has single-handedly kind of kicked off the whole sort of semi wave we're having of like alien tracks. Like we got a little bit in Force Awakens and Solo, but like since the Jedi Fallen Order did it, we have had so many other cool stuff, like just Survivor having like a whole cantina's worth of like music you can play, and just the different like tracks that have popped up in certain shows that we will not discuss because pay your writers, pay your actors,
Still pay
AMPTP.
your
Come
writers.
on. Exactly. Still pay your writers,
Mm.
please. You know, they deserve
Pay
it.
everybody.
But
Give
also
everybody their
pay everybody a fair wage, and don't F them over with robots.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, like music kicks in and Vader shows up, and I had this moment of defiance where I have like maybe a hit and a half left in my fucking health bar. And I'm standing in front of Darth Vader with one blade activated, and I literally am just sitting there like turned on the other blade. I turned on the other blade and I just fucking bum rush him. I'm like, fuck you, I'm not going out without a fight. And I'm like fully ready to fight him. And then like, you know, and I'm like, oh, why is that thing up? Why is that blue? Why is that? It's blue. Fuck you. You know,
and
I
he
was
just
like,
stops it as well. It's just so
yeah,
intimidating.
yeah.
like,
You feel
it's
so
brilliant.
powerless. You feel
Yeah.
so powerless facing up against Vader, and it's how you should feel against him. You know, I also think that the Cal's beef with anything on four legs aside, it really does. Despite the weird animal violence, the Jedi Fallen Order kind of begins to unfuck the way that we experience the Force in video games from the Force Unleashed. Like I said, like the Force Unleashed broke a lot of people's brains with like how you perceive the Force. And I love how intertwined Cal's journey of rediscovery is with like upgrades. Like it's genius. It's genius the way they handle it. The other very personal element I have with Fallen Order is that I should have grabbed it. It's in the other room. Oh well. I played and beat Fallen Order the week before I went to Disney World for the first time, and subsequently to Galaxy's Edge. So what was really special about that is, first of all, this is so stupid. The crates that you dig around in with BD1, that's what the trash cans look like at Galaxy's Edge.
That's awesome.
So every time you find you know, some cool stuff, you pull that out of a trash can. But the other thing that was so cool is that the saber parts in Fallen Order are the same parts at Savvy's workshop.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's so awesome.
I'm getting choked up talking about it. And I knew that. So I already knew the lightsaber I was going to build at Savvy's workshop. I already knew each one of the parts I was going to pick. So Fallen Order became this really fun experience where I was like actively seeking out parts for my lightsaber I was going to build in like 5 days. So like my first playthrough of Jedi Fallen Order, like I fought Trilla and Vader with my own lightsaber.
That's so
By the
cool,
end.
man.
Purple blade and everything.
So cool.
And it was like it felt really cool. I was like, oh man, that's so cool. I'm gonna have that lightsaber. And then I built it, and I was sobbing because it was just so overwhelming. But yeah, no, Fallen Order just I replay it every November, to because like it's just become part of like I got to do my yearly Fallen Order replay. And I don't think I'm going to do it this year just because I did one before Survivor. But yeah, no, Fallen Order just because of the story, because of the gameplay, because of Cal. It's one of my favorite Star Wars stories. I always joke that back when Dewback discussion was a thing, the first show Star Wars show Connor and I did, that was when he became known as the Fallen Order guy, and I became known as the Raylo who's a dude. And like both of our brands were so heavily linked to one character that it was always funny to me. It was always so funny because like everyone's like, oh yeah, Connor's the guy who's like obsessed with Cal Kestis. It was a running joke on Dewback. Like, okay, we're talking about Star Wars. Start the timer. When is Connor going to bring up Cal? How is Connor going to bring this back to Fallen Order? Have a timer set and have a shot glass ready. And as much as we joked about that, like it went unnoticed that I was also obsessed with Cal Kestis because Connor was just so like JFO that like I looked normal by comparison. I got to fly under the radar as being just as bad as him, just not loud about it.
Yeah, I'm super normal beautiful. With like my Jedi Fallen Order interests.
Yeah. The next game I'm going to bring up, it's a twofer, just like Connor did. These two games right here, they just scream childhood. Lego Star Wars, the video game, Lego Star Wars, the complete saga. Okay, first of all, let's just look at this. The new sticker is still on there. Do you remember when you could get new games for $20? Because I certainly don't. I don't remember that. I feel
like I'm in a time warp right now. That's crazy.
There's some games. That's something else.
You pay 60 quid for like games over in the UK now. It's insane.
It's insane. I hate it.
Inflation sucks.
But I vividly remember these games being such a, like Connor said, such a fabric in what shaped my love for Star Wars as a kid. Because back then, obviously, Revenge of the Sith had just came out. I was still relatively new into the fandom, like a year or two probably at this point. And it was one of the things where it's like, I know these characters in part because of the Lego game. Like an 8-year-old me shouldn't have known who Luminar Unduli is, but yet I did, and I knew her name by heart because of stuff like the games. Clone Wars wasn't out yet.
This is ringing a bell. Yep. This is ringing a bell for me. It's almost for the Obi-Wan stuff from earlier. Sorry.
It shaped so much of like the way they told the stories was so great, and just vivid things were like I played the prequel levels so much where I could probably do the first 3 levels of Phantom Menace like with my head like facing the other direction. I could still probably beat the level. I have it memorized like that. I played the shit out of these games. I have complete saga on I think 4 different systems. It's insane how much I've played it. I didn't have as much nostalgia towards Lego Star Wars 2. I played it. I loved it. But again, something about that first one came out. I loved it dearly. And then Complete Saga, when I got to play that in its glory, it was amazing getting to unlock different characters that weren't in the first one. Like, oh, now you can play as Captain Tarpals. Now you can play as Aayla Secura. Like, they weren't in the first one for some reason.
The character level is so extensive, yeah.
Exactly. So many different characters. And now, obviously, Lego Skywalker Saga completely dwarfs that. But as much as I love that game, which, by the way, I still got to get around to finishing that. As much as I love that game, there's just something about the Complete Saga that it's just like, you can't replicate that. I don't know what it is. Even though Skywalker Saga was probably technically a better game, quote unquote, Complete Saga is still always going to be a top 15 game of all time for me. It's just something special. I will replay it once every couple of years. It's just amazing. And like Connor said, I have such an urge to play it right now that I might just do that later. I just
think it's incredible because for me, I played both Lego 1 and Lego 2 a little bit. I never finished them. I didn't beat the Lego games until I had played Complete Saga.
the staying power of these games is astounding.
Like the level of unlockables you have to get,
Yeah.
like just to
I
unlock
was just
something as
saying-
random as a Lego City level, which incidentally was one of my favorite things to unlock because it's basically an excuse for you to go hog wild and just trash that whole environment. It's weirdly fun.
But just the fact that the Complete Saga came out in 07, so it's 15, 16 years old at this point. It still is so ingrained in Star Wars fandom, especially prequel kid fandom. You still see memes of it. You still see it's still there, which is insane. Yep. Again, it's just it's a beautiful, wonderful
it's the
game.
best noise. I just love it.
I can't. I think it is incredible to your point, Andrew, with the staying power of it. There is that we talk about a video game that is basically a re-release of a game of two games that had come out within like a couple years of each other, just bundled together with like 2 or 3 extra like mainline levels
and like 20 new characters.
20 new characters and a lot of bonus content. And not to undermine the development feat of like having a roster that big, but like the difference between Coyote Mundi, Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, Anakin, Luke, etc. Like the difference between those Jedi characters, aside from like how they looked, is minimal. Like, you know, it speaks to the quality of those games, and like you said, just the staying power of just how much they feel like chicken noodle soup for prequel kids. That, like, yeah, it's a re-release. It is a re-release special edition of a game that came out 2 years ago with some extra stuff in it, and it remains on like everybody's like top 10 Star Wars games list. You know,
crazy
indeed.
Because like the prequel one came out in 05, original trilogy was 06, and then Complete Saga was 07. So they came out like back to back to back, and it's still crazy how they do that. Again, I love Complete Saga so much, but there's just something about the first one where you just start off in Dex's Diner, and that's your hub, and you get the Coruscant music from Phantom Menace. It's something special about that. Is just, and I think forever, it's childhood for me, and that's why I picked those games, and not just because
another reason
them
why
the most.
Another reason why, sorry to interrupt, is like there was a kind of like almost payoff in a sense, because like, you know, for a lot of us, obviously you and I, Andrew, we both love collecting Star Wars Lego, and there was a real visceral thrill playing those games and seeing a lot of the sets you likely would have bought at the time just displayed in the game proper, like, you know, just like playing Complete Saga, doing the Mos Eisley level and piloting the Lego ATST, which I owned, which was just so cool. The, you know, the N1s and also the bongo, all of that stuff. It's just there's a real visceral thrill to seeing it all just sort of brought to life digitally and just like animated there. It's just, it's a very special thing.
That game Complete Saga was one of the first games I remember 100%ing. Like, I remember getting every minikit, every True Jedi, unlocking every character. And there are very few games where I've like really taken the time to do that. Even back when I was a kid, I lost patience quickly. That game I've beaten multiple times, 100% of the way through. And there's just something special about that.
It's especially grueling when you think that you had to like True Jedi the levels twice, once in free play and once in story and once in free play. It's insane. It says a lot about the staying power of the game that you actually want to do that.
Yep. So we've talked about games. We've had some similarities. This is another one that's had similarities. I've talked about games I've replayed time and time again. I've talked about games like this weird GBA game where I remember playing, I couldn't tell you a damn thing that happened in it. There is only one game that I have played so much that if I tried, before my system even broke, if I tried to put the disc in, it just straight up wouldn't work at points because I wore it out too much. And it's this bad boy right here. Star Wars Battlefront 2 to me
Yes.
is still in. It's a top 5 game of all time for me. I love
Same.
this game so fucking much, almost to an unhealthy degree to where I feel like I could have. The new Battlefront games were kneecapped for me immediately because it would be like but they're not the original Battlefront 2. And it would just always be that. And admittedly, I want to go back and I want to play the new EA Battlefront 2 with all the added DLC because I just played it on launch when it was bare bones and it was crap. But like, I really want to play the Ewok hunt mode and I want to play all the stuff they've added. But just this game, even just like the story mode, unbelievable. The multiple different ways that like of co-op that there were in this game. But even just there's just something about me and a friend hanging out, instant action. You've got like 5 or 6 different maps set up, and let's just fucking go. That's a night just right there, just going through the maps, whether you're playing the Clone Wars or the Galactic Civil War. Very few games. Again, the nostalgia I get from just this game booting up, and whether it be Duel of the Fates or the Imperial March just blaring with the menu screen, I love this game so much. And again, I mentioned it several times in this episode, but my PS2 lasted me for many, many valiant years. I got it in, I believe, 2003, 2002. And it lasted all the way until about, I want to say 2018, 2019. So it fought some wars with me until it finally bit the dust. And I need to get a new one just so I can play all these freaking games again, but specifically so I can experience this freaking game again. And yes, I could just buy it on the digital version. Obviously, it's on Steam too. But there's just something about this that I just need. It's so euphoric. And I think last year, actually, when I went on a vacation with my friends, one of my friends had this Xbox that was, in fact, jailbroken, so it had thousands of games on it. And one of the games was Battlefront 2. And I did just that. Instant action. I had the Republic, he had the CIS. And it was a great feeling. The maps in this game are so great. And then just the excitement as a kid of doing enough to where you unlock whoever the hero or villain is in that level.
Yeah.
It's just there are very few like fuck yeah moments than when you get enough to say unlock Obi-Wan, or when you or certain ones where it's like, why is that the character you play as on this map? Like there's a couple
Some of them
of
are like
ones,
really random.
Yeah. But
Darth Maul at the Jedi Temple is my favorite. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The Jedi Temple one is really fun as well. Like the layout of that is just so awesome.
The cool thing of seeing, like you said, where you could see OT characters on prequel maps or vice versa was just, and again, back then I either hadn't played Battlefront 1 or had very, very rarely played it. So this was like, I'm just remembering something right now. So this was actually my first ever T-rated game, because I remember there was some pushing that needed to be done on my end to convince my parents at the time that 7-year-old Andrew could get this Battlefront 2 game, and I got it Christmas of 2005. And again, I played that game more than any other game on the PS2. It's still a very, very special game to me, and I legitimately think it's one of my favorite games. It's top 5 game of all time for me. I can play this game now and still enjoy the hell out of it. It's not just blind nostalgia. It's a truly fantastic game. And when I am able to do so again, I'm replaying the story mode from the beginning and just trying to experience that again, because it's so good.
Well, I mean, I've played that game multiple times this year. You know, over the summer, I had like I had a couple nights a week where I'd have to like go back to like my parents' house to watch my sister before school started back up, and I'd stay overnight. And once everybody went to sleep, I was sleeping in like my sister's like game room now because my brother and I have since moved out. I'd just be sitting in there. I'd boot up the Xbox. I'm playing Battlefront, man. I'm doing Rise of the Empire, baby. Let's go. And there is, I wish truly that the canon era had adapted that story a little bit more. I'm sorry. It's so fucking good. And if you had taken the Dave Filoni version of how the clones work and melded it with the story of Rise of the Empire,
Absolutely.
like I thought from the beginning that like the Bad Batch would end with the stomping out a rebellious clone uprising thing. Like I thought that's how the show would end, and then they just
That's what I thought it was going to happen too.
Topeka City up at
yeah.
the end of the first season. But like I thought it was heading there. I thought we were going to see a story like that, and I still wish we did, and I hope we do in some way, shape, or form still, because that was just such an incredible like story arc. I love the idea of like the clones in the Empire just kind of slowly realizing that they're just as expendable as anybody. It's incredibly fascinating. I made a joke a few months ago where I was talking about how the Rise of the Empire story feels like you're hearing the Star Wars version of like what the CIA did in the Cold War.
Yeah.
Like
It's
it really feels
Timur
like
Morrison's voiceover. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh,
the
my
voiceover of the Nightfall is just.
It's iconic.
I saw a TikTok the other day. It's like when you're just sitting there and you just remember this, and Anakin's Dark Deeds hits, and you hear Timur's voice, and I'm just like, still to this day,
Nobody said much when we were silently shipped back to Coruscant, and I was like, "Yep,
my
oh yeah,
God.
dude, I will play the I will because you can't like pick a level in the Rise of the Empire, which is a tragedy. The other night, this past weekend, my girlfriend and I went with my family to King's Dominion in Virginia, and we stayed at my Nana's house the night before, and my sister had conveniently left the Xbox there. And while I was doing a ton of laundry, because I'm doing way too many details that don't matter, while I was playing the game, and I played the story mode just to like pass the time while I waited for laundry to be done. And I literally chose deliberately, I'm just going to play up to Camino. Like, because like the run of Follow the Jedi Temple to Camino, or to Mustafar or Camino, whichever one comes first. I think Camino is the last one. In that run of like the Clone Wars stuff, then you hit Nightfall, and then it's so good. Like, I'm sorry, and again, yes, the historical precedence that Star Wars is based on Nazi Germany. Yes. You're right. I know I shouldn't want to be the bad guys. However, it is cool to fight Jedi, and I feel like a badass when I shoot the Queen of Naboo in the fucking face. Okay? I'm sorry. I wish it wasn't like this. But lining up that shot like Space Oswald and just popping her, you feel cool as fuck.
Oh my goodness.
Look,
it's some of the most
Star
chilling
Wars
stuff.
Black Ops.
Yeah.
The shit's cool.
It
I don't know
is.
what to tell you.
It's one of the most chilling stories, to be honest, in a Legends era Star Wars game, because it really allows you to explore some more chilling ideas about Order 66 back before the whole chip thing had come in. Because like overall, I do prefer the chip explanation, but I think this game and the story it has, like you said, it's so chilling, and it's possibly the best exploration I have seen thus far of like the idea that the clones knew the whole time. Because you get all of this chilling dialogue from Tamir Morrison's voiceover, where he talks about the fact that they always knew they were gonna.
They can be killed.
Exactly. Yeah.
We hope
and
it
it's
was
just
quick for Ayla Sakura, and
and it gets even more chilling when you
think
think about. Yeah, exactly. Same. I do as well, because like and it gets even more chilling when you realize that Boba Fett is there to help you put down a clone rebellion,
Yeah.
which is so extra nasty given that they're all essentially Boba's brothers and he's participating in essentially a form of genocide by like
No,
taking the
not a.
clones.
Oh yeah, it
Oh,
is.
no,
It is
it
an
is.
ethnic cleansing of the clones.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know, they wipe them out, and you know, you're right. You're right. Like I want like truly. God, I know they're the bad guys, and I don't like the military industrial complex, and the CIA fucking sucks. Okay, but like, if I could have a game that the entire story mode is shit like, hey, go assassinate the Queen of Naboo because there's been an anti-fascist uprising. Like, it's the fucking space CIA. It's cool. It's cool as shit. Like,
This is the
I'm
thing,
sorry,
like-
this is why I rub up against Bad Batch a lot of times, because to me, like, the Bad Batch should have been like that run of 4 levels in Battlefront 2. Like Bad Batch should have been like a little bit of Nightfall, a little bit of Naboo, a little bit of Mustafar, a little bit of Camino, like, but a whole show. And like maybe you just see Crosshair doing political assassinations and shit, right? But like, I love it so much, and the chips makes Order 66 and the culling of the Jedi way more tragic
Yeah,
because nobody had a
Mhm.
choice at that point.
Nobody had a choice.
exactly.
Um,
And it's the only way I suppose you can have the clones as like relatable characters because like there was
Yeah,
no
you,
way
you
that they
couldn't
could
have the Clone Wars series
Yeah.
if they were like, no,
If
Because
every
it would
line of
break
your
dialogue
fucks over the whole
was
time.
another command post has been captured, like it
Yeah.
it doesn't work. But there is just something so dark.
Yeah.
In just, we all knew what we were about to do, and we accepted it. Like
Mhm.
it just is chilling is the word. Chilling is
Yep.
absolutely the word, and again, I think it's part of the reason why like the Call of Duty Black Ops franchise is so successful. Like
Yeah.
the framing of the 501st as, not just one specific legion under the command of one specific, general, which is what it has become now. But like, I don't know. I do truly love that story mode is just something truly beautiful. It is just so, it just leaves you empty in
Yeah.
the best way possible. And then let's say nothing of Galactic Conquest. Like, I'll play an entire Galactic Conquest campaign just to see like the goofy alternate reality cutscene, like winning Republic sovereignty and getting that shot of like all of the Jedi plus Anakin standing in the council chamber. It makes me happy.
Yeah, no, it's a truly fantastic game that I will again go back to all the time, and that's why I have it on my list. But I think this is where we wrap things up. This was a long but fruitful episode of For the Republic. You get us talking about games, and this is what happens. You wonder why we haven't had an episode like this before. Maybe this is why.
One other thing about Obi-Wan. No, I'm kidding.
No. I was like, oh no, stop the recording. But yeah, no, this was awesome. Jarod, thank you for coming on. Thank you for giving us the world's
Thank you
greatest
for
coverage of Star
letting me
Wars
do this to
Obi-Wan
your podcast feed.
that
Thank you for letting me do
didn't
this.
know we needed, but we got it anyways. Where can the good people find you?
You guys can find me running the show at the Nerd Academy podcast. We talk comic book movies, talk Star Wars. Our Patreon, if you subscribe at the $5 tier, you get 2 exclusive shows. Heroic History 101, where Travis and I talk about famous comic story arcs, and the Knights of the Nerd Republic Versus series. Next week, assuming all goes according to plan, there's going to be a mass catch-up on the Versus series. So if I have my druthers, 4 episodes of the Versus series will be dropping next week. So clear out your podcast feed and subscribe to the Patreon. And you guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Dark Jedi 2552.
All right. Don, as for yourself?
So yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead, where I've been tweeting a lot of political stuff recently because not to harp on about it too much, but our government currently kind of pretty much sucks. Screw the conservatives is all I'll say. But yeah, you can also find me on TikTok and Instagram under the same handle at Donovan_McComish. You can find me on Threads at Donovan. My name is Donovan_McComish there too. And recently, in between our last episode and now, I have finally got an invite to Blue Sky Social. Thank you, Arzu Armin from the Geeky Waffle, for sending me that invite. I very much appreciate it. Thanks, Arzu. So you can find me on there at donovanmccomish.bsky.social. It's been really fun kind of getting on there. Yeah, sure. So that's that. Yeah. And you can also find me, like Conor, over on Star Wars Epic Confrontations.
Oh, yeah,
where I'm a question writer.
too.
Exactly.
I completely forgot to mention that. I have a match coming up against a mystery Schmodown player whom I do not know who it will be. So I have a match coming out. I think my final prediction, because Alden was the one who got to pick my opponent for this because I lost our Legends exhibition. My final prediction, because I think Alden would relish in the idea of making me play against a former champion. My final prediction is one of the Demolantas. So I'm locking that in. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
You heard it here, viewers.
If I'm right, and I predicted it,
I'll tell you who I thought it was after the episode airs.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, check that out. As for myself, you can follow me all socials at Starlight Andrew, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Also, Epic Confrontations. I recently had a teams match, went up last month. Me and Jacob Bausch teamed up against Mo and Buck, Tommy Two Horns. It was a great, stressful match that I'm still not fully recovered from.
Get used to that. Get used to that.
As for the podcast, you can find us on Twitter at For the Repub Pod and on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod, where we are trying to post more clips from episodes just to get that viewer engagement up. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, For the Republic Podcast, give us a subscribe there. We will be having live content sooner rather than later. And, of course, support us wherever you get your podcasts as well. And remember to vote on this week's Jedi Archives poll. We had our nominations earlier in the episode. That will be linked when this episode gets posted, and it'll be up for about 5 days.
Soul Caliber. Vote for Star Wars and anime boobies. Vote for those two things.
That's a ring endorsement right there. So thank you for joining us for this episode. I'm about to go take a fat ass nap. We'll see you all later. And until next time, may the Force be with you always.